Hey, we are live. It's Sunday, May 28th. How are you doing? If you're watching on YouTube, timestamps will, of course, be below on the description. Excuse me. And I'm going to get the camera where we like it, so it's not mirrored. And all right, we'll just wait for people to join for a second. Hey Shay, how are you doing? I feel like I put the phone far away today. I feel like you guys are like way over there. Might try to adjust it a little bit, but we'll see. Cool. Hey Lindsay. Happy Sunday. Good to see you too. How is your day? Hey. Excuse me. My day's been pretty good. I got up a bit earlier. Did some things that typically get me in a good place, so I'm feeling pretty good so far. I definitely got up earlier than I normally do, which I actually liked. I've been night owling it pretty hard, but I went to bed a bit earlier. It worked out that way, and I'm feeling pretty great. So maybe I'll do that more. But yeah, things have been good this Sunday. How has your guys' Sunday been? Happy Sunday. Hey Marina, good to see ya. Happy Sunday, Heather. If I didn't already respond to you. I went to a coffee shop earlier, and you know when you kind of just like, I don't know how to describe it, but you accidentally like say something twice. You're like, hey, how are you doing? And then like you have the whole exchange on autopilot, and then you ask it again. And I went like halfway through the interaction. I'm like, did I just say something twice? Like I don't. So hopefully I can avoid that during the live today. And but I'm sure we can all relate to some of the social things like that happen. So we are going to start soon. So we're probably going to do I don't know, either what we normally do or maybe they'll add more in, but we've got the collective reading. We've got the readings for by element. So fire signs, earth signs, air signs, water signs, sun, moon, or rising. So we'll be doing that in just a second. I'm just kind of giving a quick chance for everybody to show up. Actually, they would like me to start the collective very soon, is what I'm getting for divine guidance. So we'll do that soon. Hey, Yasmin. Okay, I guess we'll start the collective. That's what they would like me to do. So I thought we were going to give it more of a break, but I guess not. So I guess we'll dive in. The collective reading, of course, is just really meant to be for whoever sees it. It's just kind of the collective that shows up, and it's timeless whenever you see it. So we will be doing this live now, of course, because you guys are here live now. But we also, I typically also post these on YouTube, usually the day after or Tuesday at the latest. So that's why I say that. So I guess we're diving in. The first message they'd like to get to for the collective here today, the first thing they showed me was a seesaw, or I guess maybe like a teeter-totter kind of thing is another way I could say it. The message was like, things are going to be decided. And what they kind of meant by that is like, if there's been any back and forth or like things have been up in the air, things are going to be landing more soon as far as like what's going to be happening or what's going on. So, maybe because we're at the time we're doing this live, or the time this is happening live as we film it, we're just coming out of Mercury in retrograde like a couple weeks ago. I think we're like out of the, the whole, as some astrologers would say, there's like the shade, the retro shade or retrograde shade on either side of it. I think we're out of it like today or tomorrow, honestly. I actually think it's today, where we kind of move out of that energy. So if things have been up in the air because of Mercury in retrograde, then it's going to be like, boop, landing a bit more. And like, there's going to be more of like a solid direction, more traction in a direction is kind of what I'm getting. Or if like you've been back and forth on anything, I feel like you're going to be a bit more decided on like directions you're going or like what to do about a situation or things like that. Or there could be information coming in that helps you decide on a direction, etc. There's like multiple ways this could show up, but you get it. So the other thing is like things are going to be moving forward for this collective as well. So things will be like, which kind of makes sense as well following Mercury in retrograde. Also, things will be swinging in your favor in ways that align with the highest good. So let's see if there's anything else I want to bring through to clarify that or anything else here. What I'm getting to kind of reiterate is just know that things are going to be moving forward. For some of you, things might have felt stagnant recently is something I'm getting. I don't feel like they will be for long unless you like one of the few people who really needs a lesson out of it right now or something like that. But I don't really feel like that's going to be many of you at all who are tuning into this, if that makes sense. So they're having me move on to the next message, the next message that came through ahead of time, that channeled through ahead of time. They showed me like a park. They gave me the word park. It's really just a reminder to make time to rest. For most of you, like just a bit more, I suppose you could say. Really what they were kind of getting to as well is like, this is not a good time to overwork yourself. And that overwork does not lead to success long-term. Balance does. And I know sometimes we're kind of sold stories about like the grind and we got to work 18 hours days for 12 years, hustle, blah, blah, blah. Unless you truly enjoy that and get a lot out of that and that energizes you and like fuels you, probably not the way is kind of what I'm getting. It just needs more of a balance, because if you're not enjoying your life, it's not worth it is kind of what I'm getting. Actually, there's a story they want me to reiterate for you that I just like read somewhere online. It was like I think it was one of those videos that was like a conglomerate of like just posts about something, or I think it was like an article talking about how people put down payments on a house. Now that I think about it, in one of the stories, someone was talking about how they like, in order to do this for like this set amount of years, this person, not me, but this person and their husband like worked like 2 or 3 jobs at a time if they could, and like worked 60+ hour weeks and saved up this money over however many years to put a down payment on a house. And they're like, I don't know if it was really worth it, because now after all that work, like, and whatever they put themselves through, those people were struggling with like chronic illness kind of issues because of that, or whatever it was they were dealing with. So sometimes it's like not worth it to overwork and do all that. So you do kind of have to incorporate your own intuition and see what you're getting on the matter, because that's always good to balance it with that. And they didn't like that I just said that, so never mind. I always condone you following your intuition and knowing, especially as you realize it's accurate and you have that experience and all that. Aside from that, though, the message really is just don't overwork, get a good balance, rest enough, maybe rest a little bit more right now. It doesn't mean you can't like take action on things. It just means don't overwork. So before I keep talking about that and beating that to a pulp, let's move on to the next message here. They want to add one in, actually. I actually don't think Grasshopper came through ahead of time at all in any of the readings, but they're adding in our friend Grasshopper right now for the reading, and I'm laughing because it shows up a good amount in different ones of these readings. Again, even though the message can be different each time, though it can be similar. Let's see what the message is this time here. So for some of you tuning in, or maybe a lot of you, there might be some like major decisions you have to make. Unless you like can't wait, like there might be certain times right now where it's like good to kind of hold off a little bit on like major decisions, or like give yourself an extra day to think about it or something instead of like jumping the gun on something. So if something like important is coming up that you have to make a decision on, like don't like rush the decision is what I'm getting with that one. That's for about like maybe like half of you tuning in is something I'm getting. If there's like some type of major choice you're looking to make or something like that, especially if you, of course, like if you don't have that luxury, like you got to do what you got to do with the time you have, of course. So I wouldn't freak out if you don't have an extra day or something. But if you do and you don't have to rush a decision, then I'm just getting don't rush certain major decisions if you can help it. For others of you tuning in though, like I guess the other half or another portion of you, what's up with the grasshopper for the rest of you? I feel like Spirit is getting or trying to get you to take your time with things, especially like major projects, major things you're trying to do in your life or your world or make happen. Like, I'm just kind of getting this message like there's no rush. Sure, like maybe you work a job, there's urgent deadlines, like that's a little bit different than what we're talking about here. So if you're trying to like rush something, rush to a finish line, rush something to completion, like, and you can afford to slow down a little bit, I probably would, and just make sure you're not missing any details. Make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's, as some people would say it. I feel like you'll know what this is about because I feel like you'll be feeling like really, really antsy to get it done, but there's like no reason to be, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. And like sometimes we just like want a certain phase to end in our life or in like a project, or we're bored and we want things to move on. But I'm kind of getting some advice to potentially like, I was just hearing the words like relish the process. Especially if you don't actually need to be antsy regarding something, if that makes sense. And again, like have a certain, it'd be good to, of course, employ a certain amount of self-awareness with all that, but hopefully that all makes sense. Next message. So this was a kind of an interesting message. They kind of gave me the words, Spirit doesn't judge. If anyone judges, it's humans. Most of you probably already know this, but for some reason they just wanted to throw this in, that like Spirit doesn't judge, like spirit guides don't judge, angels don't judge. Judgment is usually from humans, so you don't need to worry about like Spirit judging you about anything or past choices or anything like that. The other thing, what else do they want me to say with this? Or was that just something they wanted me to say? Give me 1 second to sit with this. They also just kind of said that humans do judge, but that's actually going away over time. Maybe not like tomorrow or right away, but over time, there's like a certain elimination of judgment that's happening, which is good because that just means people are getting more conscious and there's more consciousness rising on the planet, if that makes sense. Maybe some of you don't think that's going to happen or something like that. And I don't know. That's okay. I just feel like it's going to happen over time. Next, the other thing they had added into this, which I don't know if it fits with what I said for starters, they just said new roadways are opening up for the collective. It's just something that's happening. Like the other message is like, don't judge your path or how it looks right now. Because sometimes people can kind of pigeonhole themselves because they see what's in front of them. They don't see how certain things are possible. And they kind of like shut down and like don't try, or like don't trust that Spirit has a way to get them from point A to point B, or get them over the hump, or change their circumstances. And sometimes the way Spirit operates with changing something, sometimes it's over time and maybe you have to put in more effort than you thought. Sometimes it's overnight and magical. I mean, it could be magical both ways, by the way, but sometimes it's overnight and you just, never imagined it would happen a certain way. So I don't know why I'm getting this message, but try not to make things impossible that don't have to be impossible, or try to hold a space of possibilities or the awareness that like things are possible for you. Like there are possibilities for you regardless of your immediate circumstances. And that one could help you if you're going through a certain phase right now, like get through this phase for some of you who need to hear that. Two, I feel like it's going to hold space for you to manifest more because you won't be pigeonhole your asks to, in a way that's relational to your current circumstances. And what I'm trying to spit out is, if we kind of just let go of everything that's in front of us right now and all of our immediate circumstances, and we kind of sat with like, okay, what do I like actually desire to get to? Not just like, what's the next step? Not just like, what's slightly better than what I'm going through right now that I can imagine happening. It's like, what do I actually desire? If there weren't any limits, if I just could ask for it and have a clear path there tomorrow, like what would I ask for? And sometimes that's a more powerful place to manifest from because you're not pigeonholing your manifestations or asks to the alleged limitations of your present, if that makes sense. So hopefully that really spelled it out for you guys. But the other thing is like, not to judge your path or how it looks right now, because sometimes things are just like under construction for the future and you don't see it. Or, sometimes like the story just isn't done playing out and we get to a place where like, oh, is this all there is? It's like, no, there's way more to the story. You're just in a little like holding pattern until this moves out of the way and you can move forward, or until spirit does this thing. So it's safe for you to go over here to your new job, or whatever your change you're trying to make, or, whatever happens. So, just keep that in mind. Like, don't judge your immediate circumstances right now, and write yourself out before the miracle happens, or, whatever happens. Next, they showed me a playground and said, they just kind of asked the question, like, what brings you fun? And the request for you, or the recommendation for you, is like, bring more of that in. Like, make a list of things that you consider fun or that bring you fun, if you have anything that comes to mind, like, and then like start making it happen. Like, for some reason they're like, stop waiting. Sometimes you have to schedule things to happen. So, they want me to talk about this as well. I remember reading, I think it was like a TikTok that showed up, or it was a post somewhere, and it was someone talking about how like they went to therapy, and this person like talked to their therapist about how this person like didn't know what was fun to them. Like, they didn't know what they did for fun. They weren't sure what that was. And the therapist was like, there are plenty of people who like don't know what that is. And they're just, and they're just not sure what lights them up, and things like that. One thing that was kind of popping in as that was playing, I don't know how to describe this, but as that was popping in was like, you can just kind of just put your feelers on it and just like pay attention over the next like couple weeks, and like, when are you having fun? if you are, and like, what things do you find you're having fun regarding, or start inviting that in and seeing like, what are the experience spirit brings you, the universe brings you, that are you having fun? And then start to make that list as you notice what is fun to you. And then you have this list to refer back to. So you're like, oh, playing kickball was really fun. I think I'll join a kickball league. Or playing video games was fun. I think I'll just schedule more time to play video games sometimes and not judge myself for it, or whatever it is. So, and it really just kind of seems like the universe is trying to get you to bring more fun into your world, but in like a conscious way where you're creating it and allowing it to organically evolve from there, I guess, as you're consciously creating it. And they kind of had a similar message. I've talked about this before, actually. They've had me talk about this before with joy, actually, because the next question is like, what brings you joy? And like, the recommendation is to like consciously incorporate it, like all the time, like a lot, like schedule it into your scheduler, or purposely start doing more of those things if you have that list. Like, the rest of this message that came through ahead of time is like, this is a time for joy and for creating it. And it's the other thing they wanted to add into this is like, it will help bring New Earth more into your reality. It will help create a better world for everyone. Live in joy. Just try it. No pressure on it though. Like, if it's not working, then try something else. Or if you're in the middle of like grieving, of course, like, which is not going to be all of you, then, that's okay. Let yourself be in that place. You don't have to force yourself to have fun and be in joy, right now, but maybe keep these ideas in mind for as you start to feel better and pull yourself out of whatever it is, and incorporate it into your world as you can, if that makes sense. So you don't have to force these things to happen. It's not a pressure, but it is a recommendation to improve your world, bring a higher frequency into you, and just start to attract better is fun and joy, I suppose, which how does it get any better than that? For some reason, they showed me pancakes with that one. Which I guess pancakes could bring you joy. Personally, I personally love breakfast food. Not why they incorporated pancakes there, but anyways, let's see what else they'd like to bring in here. There's a bit more with the joy thing that they'd like to say, though. One of the reasons they're saying it's time for joy, they're saying it's a needed frequency, I suppose, for you guys tuning in, if you don't feel like you have enough of that, or if you'd like more of it. And this might sound weird, but it's actually needed to help transform the planet and like the people on it. I think sometimes we think everything needs to be super serious all the time, super serious all the time. And, only being super serious and like going to rallies with picket signs and and all that is going to be what changes the world. But if you think of everything as like frequency or more like something along those lines, even if you don't literally think it's that, you holding joy is going to transform everything. You being in the higher vibration is going to transform the things around you and all the people you're connected to and the whole world potentially. So consider joy as your carrier of transformation is what I'm getting to say with all that. So, and again, no pressure. It's not all on you, really, but this could help improve you, improve things for you, help you attract better, help improve the world, etc. frequency wise. Next message. I like this one. They show me a dinosaur. A lot of the times when they show me dinosaurs, it has to do with like ancient healing or things like that. And that was what this was about. They just said there are a lot of patterns that were probably a bit more negative that are just like done. So one message is like not to expect the old to repeat. This is a time to create the new is a sentence they also slipped in here that I don't remember them channeling through, but what do they mean by that? Like it's time to create the new here. You know, I think what I'm getting is sometimes we just kind of expect patterns to repeat over and over and over and over and over again. Like, what's the term, ad nauseum? Is that usually what people say? I just feel like that's not going to be the case. And we're kind of in this flux where we're leaving the old patterns like within ourselves, in our lives, societally, and things are a bit more up in the air regarding that. And like the best thing to do with that is to create what you'd like to see as much as you can, or start moving the energies in that direction, whether that's wherever you can start with that, even if you're just starting with manifesting it or putting the intentions out there, or taking one small action step, whatever you can do. What I'm hearing right now is like creating new patterns is going to lead to a lot of success if you're willing to take the ball and run with it regarding this. So I'm just getting there's a lot of patterns that are ending and you're going to have a chance to just create the new with it, a lot of you. So, or maybe all of you in different areas, different stances, different, maybe slightly different times around this reading. But I kind of feel like it's now actually, now that I said that. So hopefully that all makes sense. And anything else before we move on? Nope. They're showing a parachute next. They're just adding it in right now, like someone opening a parachute. It looked like one of those multicolored, like, or primary colored ones that, you know, you always have those videos, or I don't know at what age they started or stopped doing this, but, you know, in like preschool or in like the younger school age, they always have those activities with the big parachute thing that all the kids hold and people run underneath it, or have a bunch of balls, like, McDonald's ball pin balls that they throw on there, and like they start shaking all that stuff, and I don't know, things like that. But what's up with the parachute? What's the message before we move on here? It's an interesting message, but it's a message about like you being rescued from something. This is actually an interesting one. What they're saying is it's like being rescued from lower frequencies. What I'm getting is there's a lot more grace about getting out of lower frequencies right now for all of you, is what I'm hearing. And, you know, sometimes there are periods of time where we or people can just be stuck in certain situations that like suck, like, you know, a job with low frequency people as an example, or a living situation that sucks with like people around you that are lower frequency. But I'm just kind of getting this weird message, like everyone's kind of getting a free pass in a way where it's going to be like, in some way, shape, or form, either you'll just be more like buffered from it energetically, or it might be easier to get out of certain situations like that if you're dealing with something like that. But for whatever reason, there's just a lot more grace about escaping lower frequencies right now and in the future. So I would use that to your advantage if you're kind of seeing that play out, or if you do see that play out, which I feel like you will in some way. Of course, because otherwise, why would I be here saying it? But next message, show me pajamas. And they just kind of reiterated, like, you know, if you need to take extra time to rest, like do it. But the time for action is soon. So again, I wouldn't overwork yourself, but I feel like it's going to be time to move forward, take action, you know, pretty soon here, or you just will be. The next thing, they showed me a diamond, and they just said, your value is being exposed. I actually really like this message for you guys. They just said, you're going to start seeing how valuable you are in some way. I'm getting a weird message. Sometimes that can be like hidden for a time for certain people, just so people don't like use them, or sometimes maybe certain other people see our value and they don't want us to see it, so they'll try and like keep you down or something like that. But I feel like you're actually going to be seeing your value and making adjustments because of it. I feel like I'm getting the words like good. I'm getting it's going to be a good thing, essentially, if I were to shortcut me getting the message out of my mouth here. So it's going to lead to positive change is what I'd say, of course. I don't know if it'll be, I mean, for some of you, maybe it's drastic. I don't know if it'll be anything like too drastic, but sometimes that's all we need to like kickstart a new phase, or, moving towards things that's actually along the lines of our worth, or things like that, owning our value, things like that. There was also a message about your voice coming out more, like your voice is valuable as well, or like going deep within yourself, uncovering your voice essentially was the message. They showed me a sapphire with that one. And there was also just a quick message that you matter. So you matter, your voice matters. You're going to be bringing that out more, whether you're voicing your concerns, like at a job for some of you, or you're just speaking up and speaking your truth more, maybe even in just like a friend circle, or maybe you're going to be having more of an impact by using your voice. I'm sure some of you are on social media and speaking your truth in some way. So it could be that as well. But I feel like it's important that you are speaking up in the situations you need to, because sometimes you're the person who makes the difference by like saying the thing or saying what you're called to say. And you don't need to force this to happen or anything like that, just as you feel called. And the last thing I had ahead of time for the collective reading, they showed me deer spirit animal. And I know we're kind of on this like higher, we kind of already talked about joy, we already talked about fun, but they also talked about like peace being a key. And there was like another question, which of course is something that you might always consider, but what higher frequencies do you desire? How can you bring them in? So I think sometimes it's a bit underrated to like ask those kinds of questions. I think sometimes we just kind of like assume things, or what's the best way to say this? I feel like sometimes it can come in and sometimes it is just taken care of and it's not a big deal. But I think sometimes like it's also helpful if we are, taking action to bring some of these things in, or putting something in motion to bring some of these things in, and in a healthy way that's aligned, taking control, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't like just leave this up to chance, like this question. I'd be kind of putting it out there to the universe, and like maybe even like taking an action step to bring certain like higher frequencies in that you desire, whether it's like peace, or whether it's joy, or whether it's, if you want to work on your channeling or whatever it is. For action steps are key is something I'm hearing. And what's this about? So they're going to switch gears and go to a different message. So hopefully that made sense. But I don't know. I would just check in on like what high frequencies you desire, and like just ask the universe, like, what will it take to bring that in? Like, how can we start bringing this in more? And don't just like assume that they will come in. For some reason, that's part of the message, is like not assuming they're just gonna like happen, which is weird to me, but whatever. Maybe it makes sense in your world, and I don't need to take too much time on that. So the last thing they'd like to bring through here, they're showing me this machine here, and kind of along the same vein as what we just talked about. They're showing this machine like pumping out like high frequency energies and like events and people. But it's like this machine in this visual needs like an insert, whether it needs like directions or it needs like a request at least put into it. And it's funny because they're showing like the input is like a like there's a little like touch screen, like those restaurants where I don't know if they have them outside of the US, but they're like Coca-Cola machines, and it's like a touch screen, and you can like put all these like combinations of drinks in and like flavors, and there's like all the options like ever in this like digital interface to get a type of Coca-Cola beverage, I guess. It's almost kind of like that, and there's like a 25-cent like insert slot, interestingly enough. So as far as what they're really trying to say with this, it's kind of what I just said, actually. I guess they're just spelling it out in a different way where it's like, it's time to put your intentions out there for what you'd like to see, for higher frequencies. And I don't know why this is coming through, but not just assume that it's just like going to happen, which is not always how I approach things. I do feel like there are a lot of times where Source does just have things taken care of automatically and like we don't need to worry about it. But for whatever reason, this message, I'd be putting it out there. So that's kind of it. We're going to close that reading there. There might be like one last thing. They really like loved bringing in like Jolly Rancher candies at the ends of readings sometimes. Well, I don't know how frequently they do it, but they're doing it again. They're showing me like a green apple, like Jolly Rancher candy or something like that here. So what's the message with that? I do feel like there are a lot of improvements coming in for you, but you have to be patient. I'm not sure what that has to do with Jolly Ranchers because, well, actually they do. It was really interesting because they showed a visual and I don't know if they want me to explain it, but I'm already halfway through explaining it. So whatever. Like these gigantic, like Jolly Rancher were like landing like really, intensely, like they were launched out of a cannon, like in front of you, like on your path or something like that. And they were kind of symbolizing improvements, but it's almost like you kind of have to like wait for them to come in a little bit. Like it's not right away. So I would just know that that's coming in the future, if that makes sense. As long as you keep working, like I would keep doing things to, doing your thing, do what you do for maintenance for yourself and do what you feel called to do in your life. But I don't know. That's just what I'm getting. So I'll say it. I'm going to close that part of the reading there. So I hope the collective reading was helpful. Did whatever was for your eyes good, resonated. We're going to move to the next one in just a second here. I need to pull out my marker. I forgot to circle it to indicate when we started, which is more for me, and like, reposting it on YouTube so I can put timestamps. But so I guess I didn't need to narrate that out loud. You're welcome, Mylan. I don't think I needed this coffee, but they had me brew it before the live, and I'm really glad I did because it's pretty dang good. So we're going to be moving to the fire signs next. I'm going to give it one more second here. Yeah, I've definitely been considering just like hanging out, which I've already kind of mentioned this the past couple lives, but just hanging out with the chat a bit more between readings. My sign, so my sun sign is Virgo, is my sun sign. And they want me to tell you the big three for some reason, tell you guys the big three, but it's Virgo sun, and then it's Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon is the three boys, BOI boys. Sun, moon, and Mercury are in Aries, and your rising is in Leo. Oh, dang, that's cool. Virgo, Sag, dang. Brandon, you have the same mug. Oh, heck yeah, you got this mug? Heck yeah. It's a helpful mug. It's awesome. When you share visuals, I know it's for me when I see it in my mind's eye. Perfect. That works. I'm glad it's confirmation. What's your Mercury? Sorry for your user. Don't worry about the username. It is at least it's funny. What was I gonna say? I'm not sure about my Mercury actually. I know I've had astrology readings. I just don't remember all of them right now. So, sorry about that. Aries sun, Leo rising, Taurus moon. Nice. That's a good combo. Hopefully you feel the same. But a lot of fiery people here, in a good way. Hey, Jessica Johnson, great to see ya. Happy to be here. I'm happy you're here. Scorpio sun, Aries moon, Libra rising. That's a good combo too. Um, yeah, you definitely come across, in a good way, you come across as a Scorpio. Is what I'd say. But I mean that in the best ways. Scorpio, currently drinking iced coffee. Very nice. It's a good day to be a Scorpio. I don't know why I felt called to say that. I heard that in my... don't know why I heard that. How do you find out what your risings are? Yeah, so if you kind of just Google, like, I don't know if you would Google, like, Sun, Moon, Rising Calculator or something like that. And there's plenty of astrology sites who would love to have your clicks so that their ads make them money on their site. That would spit out your Sun, Moon, and Rising to help you out there. So I said that as a joke, but it's probably true. Yeah, natal chart. Thank you. And probably there are probably people in the comments who are a little bit more well-versed on the things you could find online to help you find like that information of something. Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you guys in the comments for holding that down. Cause yeah, I'll let people in the comments tell you. They're already telling you, but you need the place of birth, time of birth, day of birth, of course. And that should be it. Maybe maybe you could go harder with more information with some people, but I don't know if that's true. Okay, so I guess they would like me to start the fire signs reading now. So in about like 2 seconds. I also have a lot of Scorpio placements. It's cool hearing your big three. Cool. Okay. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to start the fire signs reading. And I remembered to circle it. So if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, you did not miss Earth. So Earth is going to be next. But if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be for you when you see it, whether now live or on YouTube, which it will be reposted there. So I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time. Of course, in my spirit guides, the angels and source will bring through any additional information as we read through these on top of that, or to clarify them. So let's dive in here. The first thing they showed me was a volcano. So I don't know if any of you are, I'm sure some of you are Leos, but they're showing me a lion as well with this one. So we'll see what's up with that, because this lion is just kind of chilling. It looks like some kind of weird avant-garde art in my intuitive visuals, because there's the volcano very vividly kind of exploding. And now they're showing me as well, there was this thing in the US called the Rainforest Cafe, and they had this thing called like I don't remember what it was called, like a brownie fudge volcano or whatever, and there would be like ice cream and like these brownies around it, and then they'd have like a sparkler on top, and they'd write it and like yell volcano whenever they served a volcano dessert. And they were showing me that as well here. The message that came through, they want me to talk about the lion a bit more before I read what came through ahead of time here. So what's up with the lion here? So I don't know why this is specific to Leos. I don't normally, when I'm going through these, get ones that are specific for each of like the signs. But if you have like Leo in your chart or like Leo sun, I feel like you're getting a big boost to you. You might be undertaking something important soon. Excuse me. So, and that's not to talk down to any of the other fire signs, and maybe they'll have specific messages for the other fire signs as well. But there might be just coming through, something coming in for the Leos where like, let me see if I'll get like a more like fleshed out message beside there's going to be a boost to you here. There might be something like you really want to do that you're getting a boost towards, or like you're upgrading and you're just kind of coming off of those upgrades. They're showing me Captain America with that message. If you'll think back to if you've seen the Marvel movies, there's the first Captain America movie where he goes into the machine to become a super soldier, and he's like fresh out of the machine. He's like, he becomes the super soldier. So he's like, has a certain amount of superhuman strength or maxed out human strength or whatever. And I weirdly, I feel like that's you. And you're almost going to be like super boosted in a way, and it's because you have like a purpose that's either coming online or you'll be moving towards soon. So that could be very specific to at least some of the Leos here, or maybe all of the Leos here. They actually do have some other messages specifically for the other fire signs, which I think is actually very fun, because normally we just dive into the elements, but for Sagittarius, what's up with the Sagittarius here? They're moving back to the brownie volcano thing they showed me, but they're really specifically showing me the ice cream as well here. I feel like there are certain things, and I'll get more depth on what this means, that are being like cooled off for you, like situations that have been hot, or maybe they're showing me like hot potato as well. Like, maybe you're trying to balance a situation that's been really intense for you, or maybe you've been feeling, extra heated in a certain way. I feel like things or you are being cooled off to just kind of balance things out. So in a good way, I feel like things are going to be cooling down for you and like calming down almost, especially if things have been like a little bit rough or you felt like you've been in choppy waters metaphorically. So I feel like you're actually going to have a rest period for Sagittarius. So I feel like you're also going to be able to recover from something you've gone through recently as well. And for the last fire sign here, Aries would be the one we haven't talked about yet. What's up with the Aries people here? It's funny because Aries, of course, is like aside from the sign Aries, like the deity Aries is like the god of war, and they're kind of starting off with something like that, where someone's like going to war here. It's not necessarily literal, but let me sit with it for a second here. I feel like you, like Aries, are going to be winning certain battles that you've been going through, and that if you have like Aries in your chart, like especially the big three, because I guess like, never mind. I was about to say something and they didn't want me to say it. But it's almost like you're going to war and winning. I think sometimes we talk about war as like a bad thing or as a negative thing. And typically I don't know if like judging it as bad outright is like the way I would lean, but it's definitely not something I would lean towards or like typically want or desire in my world or life, like, or in the world at all. In this case, it's actually a good thing is what I'm hearing, because it's like there might be certain things you need to like fight against or like overcome, and like that, having that like fiery spirit or like a certain amount of healthy aligned warlike energy or like warrior energy, I suppose, if you will, is going to be helpful. So if you have to like fight to succeed in a certain area, or maybe you've been getting into like a tiff with certain people, I feel like you're probably coming out on top in a certain area regarding that. And there's like some kind of like battle that you're winning, if that makes sense. Or they're also saying something about you winning the war. So if you've been feeling you've been like at war, maybe even if it's with yourself or with like a pattern you've been dealing with, or with another people, I feel like you're going to be winning. And as I say that, like a part of me is thinking like, is that necessarily a good thing? What I'm getting in this instance is yes. So I guess that's cool here. And like you might be like beating out certain people in like a competition, or people I don't know who you'd be fighting against, but maybe it could even be like a competition for like a promotion at work, or a competition to like win on social media or something like that. I feel like you're either going to be winning or coming out on top in some way regarding like some type of competition. So let's move on to the messages for all the fire signs here. It's funny because I've been thinking about doing these lives where it's like, what if we just go through all the signs? My hesitation with that is that I'll tend to like take 20 minutes on every sign, and then it's like all of a sudden I've been live for like 4.5 hours and we're not even done. So, I know that like math doesn't totally math, but I'll just tend to have the readings go very long. Anyways, so the first thing that came through was a volcano, and for all the fire signs, sun, moon, and rising, and it's about explosive action. So I feel like all of you are going to know what to do here, regarding like an action you need to take or like a direction to go. Again, if things have been up in the air, I don't feel like they're going to be as much longer, or one by one, the things that have been up in the air kind of land and you can take action on it and kind of take care of business and then move to the next thing as it lands, etc. So I feel like you're going to be on a whole new track soon with taking care of business and getting things done. And doing what you know you need to do, I suppose you could say, and kind of moving to the next steps here. But there was a message like, it's going to be time soon, or it is time to take explosive action. And of course, like they were like, rest when you can around that. Like I think it was Sagittarius was getting like, things are going to be cooling down and resting. So around that, I suppose, maybe there are things that are going to be coming in that you need to take action on, and I would, but you'll know what to do. And I don't think it's going to be like that big of a, maybe it's a big deal in like the results you're getting or something, but I don't think it's going to be a big deal as in like overwhelming, if that makes sense. The other thing is like, we kind of already said all that. So before I beat that one to a pulp, let's see what else you'd like to get to for the fire signs here. So I do have like a mountain that came through next, but before I went to the mountain, they were showing me a fountain, and I know that like rhymes and all that, but let's see where I'd like to go with this. So if you are, let me sit with it a second, see what they'd like me to say. So sometimes we don't want to go on detours in life or like put in extra effort in certain areas, but sometimes it's well worth it. Like if you think of like certain video games that have like side quests, like what they were showing me was back in the day when I was a kid, I used to really love the Legend of Zelda series, like on the Nintendo 64 and like the GameCube, if you'll remember that, and stuff like that. And there was this aspect of the games where there would be these like fairy fountains or like great fairy fountains. So you could go to these like, fairies in the game, and they'd give you like certain upgrades to your character. Like they'd give you a magic ability, or like an upgrade to an item, or an upgrade to you or your magic or something like that. And, sometimes life calls us on detours and it seems kind of pointless, but you actually get something really great out of it that's really helpful for like the rest of your life. So, the example I'm getting is like what this could pertain to is like maybe your neighbor, like, wants some help with something, and they ask you to help and you really don't want to, but you're kind of getting the inclination or into the message to do so or something, or the feeling like it could be important. And then like maybe you get something really great out of it is an example that's showing up. So it doesn't literally have to be that, but there might be certain detours you're called to take that you don't want to take that lead to certain really great things. So if something like that turns up for you, I would consider it. Next, they show me a mountain, and the message is like, I actually really like this one. Like certain challenges for you are going to be erased. Like I don't know if all of them will, but there are certain challenges going on that like are not going to be a thing much longer for you. So keep hanging in there regarding that. An example that's popping in that I'm getting is like maybe you're in like a weird, I don't know why I want to keep saying the word tiff right now. That's pretty British, right? But maybe you're in like a tiff with your boss at work, and hopefully I'm using that word correctly, but you're in like a squabble with your boss at work or something, or there's like some kind of tension you wouldn't want there with a boss or something, but it gets resolved and you have a conversation and it's totally fine or something like that, or with your spouse or something like that. So I feel like there are certain things that are kind of hanging over your head that don't really need to, like it's either not a big deal or maybe it is kind of a big deal, but it gets resolved really quickly. So I'm not promising all your challenges are going to go away, but I do get a message that certain ones are, which is good. So next they show me a feather. So, the message was like, you're getting a lot of signs. Don't worry too much about things right now in general. Sorry for the pauses. Sometimes I'm like picking up on an energy or maybe someone's scrolling by and it just kind of, I need a second to be like, well, okay, let's shoo that away. Or so, sorry for the pauses, but one of the messages, like, it's going to be okay regarding like, things going on in your life right now. Like, don't worry too much about things. And the other thing is like the signs or synchronicities are reassuring you. So I do feel like you're being reassured a lot. You're getting a lot of synchronicity, and like I do feel like you do have good things being sent your way. Honestly, I do feel like you kind of have to trust though at the same time. They're showing me the Indiana Jones leap of faith scene from those old movies. And where there's like the invisible bridge or whatever, and he has to kind of step out on this invisible bridge to get to this cave or whatever. I don't totally remember. like might be certain areas right now where you're being called to trust, and like it kind of, maybe you even feel like there's no support, but there's actually like a ton of support. It's just kind of unseen, or you don't see it coming, or things like that. It's like, Indiana Jones didn't really need to worry stepping out onto that bridge, but of course he was, because it looked like he was just about to drop down into a chasm, but he wasn't actually. So it's kind of like that, Sometimes Spirit's net or safety net that Spirit has for us is unseen, and we just kind of have to trust we're taken care of sometimes. And sometimes there are people out there that maybe they do have a reason to legitimately worry. I don't feel like that's you regarding this, is what I'd say. So next message here, there might just be increased synchronicity for you as well. Next here, Grasshopper is jumping into this reading last second. I don't know why he's so popular in all the readings the last couple of months, but whatever. What's up with this Grasshopper this time? They're kind of showing me the mandibles of the Grasshopper. He's like eating grass or like a leaf or whatever. So what they're talking about is how different creatures in like the animal kingdom need different fuel. Like, the giraffe eats leaves or whatever. The tiger eats meats. Certain bugs eat other bugs. There's not necessarily like, maybe some science, person here would be like telling me there actually is on some level, and that's fine. But as far as this message goes, there's not like actually necessarily a one size fits all fuel for all animals, or one size fits all food. If there actually is on some level, cool. But, for the sake of this reading, bear with me. And what the message is like, you would be good for you to find what fuels you, what lights you up. Not necessarily even care too much, regarding this message about what fuels others or what works for other people, because that might not necessarily pertain to you and what fuels you. One person might get a lot of light and feel filled up by facilitating sessions for people, like, energy healing sessions. Another person might get filled up by like reading a book and staying home. And maybe, of course, there's probably multiple things that fuel you, but it's good to kind of know thyself, know yourself, and know what that fuel is for you, and not try to force yourself to fit into other people's molds regarding that, or be like, oh, this worked for so-and-so. Why don't I feel fueled by this? Well, that's because so-and-so is metaphorically a tiger and you're metaphorically a giraffe, and that's not trying to put one of you above the other. I'm just trying to make the point like you need to eat something else. Not literally. Maybe though. Next message here, they showed me a godsend and said like God is sending you more than you realize. So big answers to your prayers for some of you, big manifestations for others of you, or, but it was really a message about receiving more than you bargained for in general. I feel like when I kind of checked in, like I was getting this as mostly positive, because like you just might not be expecting like how much you get. So I don't know, maybe the example I'm getting is maybe you're manifesting $10 to get a bus ride to see your friend like the state over, and maybe the universe sends you like $1,000. You're like, I don't know what to do with $1,000. But maybe that $1,000 makes sense like a couple months from now when you need to pay a security deposit on an apartment or something like that. So I don't know, for some reason you're just getting more than you bargained for in some way, and hopefully that makes sense. One thing, so it didn't really make sense to say this after what I just said, but the example before it, maybe it did. I'm trying to get away from like over explaining things when I'm delivering the messages. Because I was watching one of the readings and I realized like sometimes I just have a tendency to really over explain things, which is fine, but I don't even know why I'm telling you that right now. The next message, they showed me the color yellow, and the message is about personal power. So for you guys, the message is personal power is going to be one of your keys to survival, and not to get wrapped up in what, kind of similar to what we just talked about actually before the last message, but not to get wrapped up in what others have, but like get wrapped up in what you desire and like live in that energy, that or better. So if you're working on your personal power in some way, like I feel like things are actually going to be a lot better for you guys. That could be like one of the main themes some of you are working with as well. For others of you, maybe it's like a passing theme or you're revisiting it and going a bit deeper with it or something. But, The other thing that they really wanted to add in with this message, which kind of seemed perhaps laced in with some other things as well, is like they just said the word like do the work. So, that could look like working on your solar plexus with that intention to kind of work on your personal power, looking at guided meditations that have to do with like calling your power back or personal power, facilitating some self-healing sessions for yourself, whether it's Reiki or another modality or something regarding like solar plexus, personal power, or something like that. Like the other message for you guys along with this is like, this is a time for you to do the work. If you look at anybody who is doing something great or that you perceive of as great, or they're getting great results, oftentimes, like 99% of the time, they probably did the work behind it, or they did the deep work to get those results, or to consistently get those results, or they really worked on themselves, or whatever. Sometimes things aren't always just handed to you. They can be. One of the other readings had a similar message. I forget which reading and where it is. Otherwise, I'd scroll to it and read it to you. But it was something along the lines of... I actually don't remember what channeled through. I'm so sorry. But you get what I'm getting to with this. Doing your work is going to pay dividends, whether it's working on yourself, working on your life, putting the effort into this. Actually, they want me to talk to this as well. I think someone on one of the platforms left a comment about how they felt pretty exhausted with messages of like, work on yourself, keep moving towards your dreams. Cause that person felt like they were just like barely hanging in there. Like they were just barely, keeping themselves afloat with everything. I'd say like for hopefully few of you who feel that way, honestly, I would say maybe even like take a break from like this, or like watching these. My intention isn't to like chase people away, but if that's what's best for you, or take a break from people who are like stressing you out, if that makes sense. And maybe keep those messages in mind for like later when you feel like you're doing better, or maybe at that point your work is just getting to a better place. Honestly, if you're in that place, I feel like you doing the work is you'd be like, okay, how can I recover from this? How can I change my circumstances so I'm afloat again more easily? Like, how can I, your work at that point could very much just be like taking a break from that and just getting to a better place the best you can, or, whatever that is. So, there's a couple different ways you could look at it, but they wanted me to talk to that for some reason, just in case that's one of you watching this and you're getting all stressed out and things like that. I'd say it might not be worth stressing about. I just do what you have to do to take care of yourself, honestly, first and foremost. And like, maybe you'll just get this message at another time, or it'll make sense later on, like how it applied, if that makes sense. Cause sometimes certain people might have presumptions on like what the messages mean, but it's not that. So next here, what else would be that's good for us to get to here with all that, or anything else? Give me 1 second to sit with it. Yeah. And again, I feel like that would just be like a very, very small percentage of you. So just take care of yourselves, is what I'd say first and foremost. So the thing they'd like me to get to next for you guys is they showed me the word platinum. They said you are getting upgraded from your current level of reality. And there was another reminder, like to just do your work in life, if that makes sense. And as far as like to go deeper into like the do your work message, that could be like, if there's a skill you really want, like putting the effort in to build that skill, whether it's learning guitar or learning how to be good. If like, for instance, if you want to do music, like getting really good at honing your craft with like recording music and, maybe producing it if you have to produce it and getting it to sound really good. If you're building a business, like doing your work and kind of digging into like, okay, how do we improve the marketing in an aligned way that feels good? Just putting in the right amount of effort, if that makes sense. But for some reason, we're really like hammering that in some of these last couple of messages. So I guess I'll stress it a little bit. Next, they showed me an airplane. And, on top of that, I think it makes sense. There was just another reminder to be kind of just gentle on yourself, because I just feel like there are certain things that are leveling out for you. and I do feel like it's possible to do your work and work on yourself and be gentle on yourself at the same time. I don't, I think like it probably makes sense to most of you guys tuning in and listening, but, and I kind of feel like you guys get it. So, but there was just a reminder for that one here. And then the last thing I had ahead of time for you, they showed me FedEx. It was like a FedEx airplane. Like they switched from like an airplane to like a FedEx airplane. And like there was like this message that there are special deliveries coming into your reality, like new gifts, new abilities, manifestations. For some of you, it's like new love if you're single or like looking for that or something like that here. So just certain special gifts coming in for you, I guess, which is cool. I feel like that's a good thing. So, awesome. Beyond all that, that's what I have ahead of time. I want to see if there's anything else I wanted to talk to or get to before we move on to the next reading. For some reason, the message I'm hearing is a lot of you guys are better than you think you are in a lot of ways, like even as people. I think it can be tempting to for some of you to beat up on yourselves for some reason because you don't think you're good enough, or maybe some of you think you can't have good things or things like that. It's the message I'm hearing for you guys right now regarding this is like, sometimes it's not like a matter of like being good enough. It's like, depending on the circumstances, sometimes the message is like, are you doing enough for certain things? Are you putting enough work into certain things? And it's like not even a message of or thing about self-worth at all. Self-worth is just like the hang up some people need to work through to like get to a better place so that they do put the right amount of effort into certain things, if that makes sense. So try not to look at certain things as like on a level of like, are you worthy enough? Because it's like your worth, is infinite on a certain level. Even if the world doesn't always seem to show you that, even if you don't like think so, like on a spiritual level, like the truth is like you're of source. You came here from source. You could say source is infinitely valuable or invaluable or whatever. And so are you. At the same time, that doesn't mean we don't have to like put work into certain things to like either make certain things happen or get certain results, if you feel me. So for some reason, I'm getting this weird message for you regarding some area of your life where it's not about worthiness. It's like about effort. And I don't know who needs to hear that, and that might be about different things for different ones of you tuning in, but hopefully that makes sense. Cause to me, it seems a little bit out of the blue to like say all that, but hopefully it just pings on the right ways for you, and you just kind of get it here. So we're going to close that reading and kind of, I don't know why they're showing a turn to a new chapter. I feel like some of you are like turning to a new chapter, so congrats on that. And for the rest of us, I guess we'll turn to a new chapter by turning to this next reading. So hopefully that was helpful and resonated, and let's move on after I drink some water and stuff. I needed to hear it all. Totally resonated. Thanks, Brandon. You're so welcome, Tay. I didn't catch the whole username before it scrolled away, but you're so welcome. Someone had a question. Leo. Oh, hey, Leo. Good to see you. Question about next week's Intro to Channeling class. Will the attunement differ from the one in your book? I'm getting yes, and they were telling me to say yes to that. It's actually very different. It's like akin to an energy healing or energy work attunement, but it's like for intuition and like opening one to channel, if that makes sense. So it's like geared strictly to intuition and I guess your gifts. So, maybe not your gifts specifically, but the gifts of the people who receive the attunement. Perfect. You're welcome, guys. Hey, Megan. You might be saying how are you to someone else, but I'm doing well, and hopefully you are doing well as well. You're welcome, Leo. Okay, so I'm going to take a swig of coffee, and then we're going to start the earth signs reading. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to start the reading because that is what they would like me to do. So I'm going to circle it. I'm going to do it. You can't stop me. So Earth sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising. This is meant to be a reading for you when you see it, whether it's now live or I guess for anyone watching on YouTube, it would be now for you on YouTube. And I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time from my spirit guides, the angels, and source. And my spirit guides, the angels, and source will be bringing through any additional information that's for your highest good as I read through these. I say that a lot. I think I say that almost every reading I do. So I don't know if I need a different spiel or if it's just like a nice comforting thing for everyone at this point. But the first thing that came through ahead of time for you guys, they're switching it up here. The fire signs also had a mountain that came through for them, but you guys also have a mountain coming through for you. And it's a message about you guys overcoming, well, there's a couple different things they're throwing in. They're throwing in like an 8-ball as well. But they're showing with the mountain here is about you guys overcoming obstacles. I feel like if you guys just keep working, you will overcome obstacles. So it's like kind of a message of like, just keep going, like almost like regardless of, trust your intuition as well, but regardless of what's there or like the obstacles that are present, because you might be surprised at what you can overcome. I'm getting a weird message, like, and it's not what I would typically say, but sometimes the universe like throws something your way just to see. It's not like the universe doesn't already know, but it's almost like just to see how serious you are about something, or it's almost like a rite of passage to like do something or get to do something. So you might be going through something akin to that where it's almost like an obstacle that's in your way. It's like, oh, are you serious enough to like do this thing and like overcome this obstacle? Like, do you care enough about this to overcome this? So if anything like that is going on, especially like regarding your work or something you'd like to do, just keep working through it and it will pass probably pretty quickly is what I'm getting. And now what I'm not saying with that is like, if you're in a new love situation or relationship and someone cheats on you, to like work through that and stay, because that's a big red flag. And that's, unless you're in like an open relationship or something, you should probably get out of that. That's not what I'm saying with that, but you probably already knew that, but it popped into my head while I was channeling that message through. And then they had me speak to it, I guess. So just in case. The next thing that I'm going to get to with the 8-ball here. And the 8-ball in a pool table game is typically like the end of the game. Like that's what you are working towards, getting into one of the pockets to end the game, or if you hit it in early, that ends the game typically. So as far as like what the message is here, I feel like you're coming up on the end of certain things, certain like phases in your life, maybe even certain projects. The message is like to keep working through to the end and like follow through, and like almost like to kind of really making sure you're hitting it hard and regarding whatever that is. I feel like that's going to help you get the best results. Like even in sports, like if there's, I can think of like 3 examples that are just, they're just kind of jumping in as I'm channeling this through. They're kind of showing these different images and I'm just kind of getting them somehow. And like baseball, you're taught to swing through the ball. Sorry, that was bad form. I used to play baseball, but you swing through the ball and follow through. And like that, for some reason, just helps you hit the ball harder. Helps the ball go further. Like golf, you swing all the way through the ball. Even in like karate, when you're breaking a board, you typically want to like follow through the board and hit like through the board in order to like break the board effectively and like not hurt your hand or something like that. So follow through could be important right now, even in like a weird, maybe as above so below way. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but even in things that aren't sports, I suppose, because that's going to like help you get the best results. Like maybe you have like a client you're doing work for and you do a little bit extra, or you just finish strong, if that makes sense. Like if you think of someone who's running a race, I don't know why I have going through 20 million examples with this, but if you think of someone like running track, like if you think of Usain Bolt, like running the Olympics, if he didn't follow through the finish line, he'd be like slowing down to a stop before he got there. And he like wouldn't get as good of a time because he would have slowed down before getting to the end. And like, it just wouldn't have been as effective as a time for the results he was trying to get, I suppose you could say. So finish strong regarding anything like that you're coming to an end with here, especially like projects or whatever it is. So let's move on here. The next thing they like to get to, they're showing me the 8-ball again. So there's other messages with it, or there's more. I feel like you could also be like celebrating the end of something. And there is kind of a quick reminder to like, excuse me, don't forget to like celebrate sometimes. Like it's okay to take some time to celebrate when you like accomplish certain things. And, you know, sometimes celebrating gets you more good because you're, you know, I guess you're in that energy, or you're taking time to appreciate things and appreciate accomplishments. So you get more, if that makes sense. So don't forget to celebrate your wins is what I'd say, big or small. I feel like that's going to be helpful for you as well. The first message that came through ahead of time though, but those were they just kind of added those in as I started. They said, you're getting an upgrade to you, like your personality. Weirdly enough, was something I was hearing, like how you relate to people, your way of being. So the other messages, like I do actually feel like you are going to be coming out on top in work in some way is the channel message that came through for you. So there's something coming in where you're going to be coming out on top in work in some way, or you're headed in that direction at the very least. Even if it seems like they're showing this path that's like through the mountains, it looks long and treacherous even. So even if it looks long and treacherous, I actually don't feel like it's going to be. I feel like it's actually going to be easier than it looks in some way for some reason. If you've been like looking at a potential path and like scared to do it or something like that, is jumping in as a message as well. Next was just a reminder to be gentle on yourself. And there's a message like you've been going through a lot more than you realize, you know, the vast majority of you tuning in. So, you know, sometimes we got kind of go through certain things and we think it's par for the course, but it's actually not. Maybe it's like more than you realize energetically with something you've been doing, or I'm getting like a weird example. Like maybe you've been through a lot of rough things in the past, and maybe you go through like another thing that's a little bit rougher and you think it's just like par for the course, but it's like, you know, even if it's just another rough thing, like it still takes time to like recover from it, or like past things you've been through that you need to recover from, if that makes sense. So there's some sort of way where you've been going through a lot, even if it hasn't seemed that rough to some, or maybe a certain portion of you. But I would just be gentle on yourself anyways, for whatever reason regarding all of that. And, you know, sometimes we're going through like more healing than we recognize, or a lot more is shifting or transforming than we recognize. And we think it's just like another day, but you're like releasing 10 things and like transforming in this way. And you're like, wondering why certain things are different in your like physical circumstance because you're shifting in this way, or like, why is it hard for me to do this thing? And they're kind of saying like, you know, just relax, like let things transform. Well, I don't know if I'm saying that perfectly. Give me 1 second. Yeah, just relax, let things shift, like things are going to get better, but don't beat up on yourself too much if like there's a certain amount of difficulty with certain things. The next thing they showed me was corn, like a cornfield. And they gave me the word boring. And they also gave me the phrase, which I think you'll actually like, is get used to peace. And one of the messages with that is like, that is a new frequency that is birthing for you peace. And it might show up differently than you expected. And there was this other message that was like, some of you might think you're bored, but you actually might be at peace. So maybe check in with yourself intuitively if you're feeling like a little bit bored, like, am I bored or am I actually at peace? Which I don't know if that's going to be a ton of you, that's the exact way that's showing up. But, you know, sometimes we have these ideas of what these frequencies are and how they show up. But when we check in intuitively, it's like a bit different than we realize or like thought it was. Like the example that's coming to mind that I could talk about was one time, should I give this example? Okay. So they don't want me to give that example. I'm going to sit and see if they'll give me another one that will make more sense. I don't know, like maybe you thought to you that fun was like going on roller coaster rides and like things like blowing up in your life. You're like, drama, fun. But maybe fun to you is actually like sitting quietly with friends playing a board game and you're having a great time or something like that. And then as you check in intuitively, you're like, oh wait, this is fun to me. The other stuff was just an adrenaline spike. So I guess that's an example I could use, but things like that, I suppose. So I do feel like you're getting peace. It's just like different than you thought. And you kind of have to like make space for that and like adjust to that in some way or hold space for that. And maybe if there was like a different way you wanted that piece to show up, as you kind of hold space for it to show up in these different ways, it can start to show up in that other way as well, as you're kind of allowing that. Next, so I don't know if it's going to necessarily show up as boredom, like you're feeling bored, but it's actually peace. Maybe for some of you, it is like that. If you're used to a ton of adrenaline, like pumping through your system because like you're used to relationships blowing up all the time or something, but that's not going to be all of you. Next, they showed me like muscle, like someone like flexing like their arm or something. And the message was about like getting stronger. They said like the universe is making you stronger so you can succeed bigger with ease. So I don't feel like it's gonna be like a ton of difficulties making you stronger, but it could just be like slight things that make you stronger, or it could be like certain things that take a certain amount of mental fortitude or focus, if that makes sense. Because they did give me the phrase strengthening the mind as well. But I actually feel like the universe has been building your strength for a long time so you can succeed in a certain way or do something you're meant to do. If you don't feel like you're there yet, I feel like you're almost there. There's like some finishing touches being put on, or just some small things you'll go through that will help you build more strength. They're just realizations that help you to be in a stronger place or feel stronger or be stronger, if that makes sense. So maybe it's just like certain mindset shifts or things like that. Because, you know, like certain things can show up with a lot more ease than we think they can. Like, you know, I know some of these things might like sound difficult, but they don't always necessarily have to be. And, you know, maybe sometimes they are, but I would definitely, as I'll often say, like ask for ease with this. Maybe ask for like ease and comfort or something like that and see what shows up to have things show up with a bit more ease. Next, they showed me a rock. They just said, you are going to be holding it down in big ways. Like you're going to be succeeding. So, you know, maybe you're holding it down for other people, or maybe you're going to be like a rock at your job or like for your family or something like that. I feel like you will actually be able to do this with ease, whether it's because of the ways the universe has been training you to do it, you know, through your circumstances or whatever. But I feel like you're going to be holding it down with ease. So I actually really like that for you. Any other messages with that before we move on here? So I know the fire signs had the color yellow. They're showing me the color. The fire signs had the color yellow as well here. And this could have to do with a certain like upgrade to your solar plexus chakra or something like that. I feel like some of you are getting like an upgrade to your drive in life. Maybe like some of you have felt a little bit down and out recently, or like the past while in some way, or you just felt like resting or something. But I feel like your drive is returning, or it's like returning tenfold or growing tenfold or something like that. And I feel like you might be needing that in some ways. So if you've been feeling like a drive, you're going to have that back in some way. Next, they show me the Eight of Wands, like the tarot card in my intuitive visuals. They just said a lot of people are going to be communicating with you or reaching out. Could be people from the past they're adding in right now. You might not want to talk to all these people. And it's funny because normally this would be more of like a message that would probably come through during Mercury in retrograde. It's coming through after, and that's fine. If that's just what's going to be happening, that's fine. But, you know, make sure to like follow your intuition on who to like trust, who to communicate with. And if you feel called to reach out to people, like who you reach out to. There was also a message about fast momentum. And I do feel like the universe is going to be having you move forward soon. But it's almost like fast momentum where you're like hitting like a truck. So you might be hitting certain projects like a truck or busting through certain obstacles like a truck. But if you haven't been feeling like moving forward, you are going to be called to move forward soon is what I'm getting with this reading here as well. I feel like there's going to be more momentum for you. I think sometimes one of the challenges for us is getting momentum on like a project or something. And then it's just like getting over the rut with sustaining momentum. But once you have it, it's a breeze, if that makes sense. The example that keeps like popping into my head in a way is, or like it's almost like a thought, but it's like forming a habit. But I don't feel like they like the example as much, which is why I'm hesitant to say it. Because I was going to say something along the lines of like, you know, there's all these people who talk about forming a habit. And it's like, if you want to form a habit, like plan on doing something for like every day for like 60 days, or like plan on giving yourself like 60 days to really like get that habit in, because like that's when the most resistance is going to be in place for you doing a habit. Because maybe like do something for a week and you're like, oh, this is great, I feel great when I do this thing, like going to the gym or whatever, and this is awesome. And then like you hit the next week and there's like a little bit more resistance, but you're still doing it. And then it's like, I think like 12 to 14 days was like a measured place where people tended to find a lot more resistance. But if like you can push through that resistance for like 30 to 60 days, and I've heard different ranges from like 30 to 45 to 60, and like you get to that place where it's just like your habit, and like that's going to feel more of like your comfortable place for you, then it's just a breeze to sustain that habit, whether it's going to the gym or eating right or whatever. So if you're trying to like change something, maybe like really commit to the daily habits that support that thing, or like really commit to it for like at least 60 days and see what changes once you get to that place. But if you're trying to change anything right now, I'd really commit to it. That could be a key to your success regarding that. If that makes sense. Don't worry about what I'm doing with my hands. Sometimes I'm just like shooing an energy away or something, and it is what it is. But I guess that's kind of it for that reading. Now that I'm sitting with it, anything else before we part ways here? There is a message about like a dove and God's promise, I suppose. This came through last week for someone, or in some reading I did the past week, where it's like one of like, if there's like a promise God made you in some way, could have been through like a reader or something like that, or maybe it's a message you got. It's like, I feel like one of God's promises is coming in for you sometime soon. So that's really cool. I also getting the words an end of an era. I feel like you're coming to an end of an era in your life, and it's a really good thing. I feel like you're leaving a difficult period behind, and you know, some of you are like, maybe you're past it and it's like it's time to just start it. Some of you, maybe there's just like a few more challenges or things coming in and then you're good. But I would just have fortitude, honestly, and like mental fortitude, and I feel like you're going to come out the other side flying, and I feel like this new phase will be better as well. It is something I'm getting to. So I actually feel like there's one more message before we part ways here. They give me the word teleports, and it's funny because they're showing me like, you know, when I was a kid, I used to really love Pokemon, and there was that was one of the Pokemon moves, was like teleport that certain Pokemon had, and they were showing that move being used and give me the sound effects from it. So what's up with that one here? So at least one last reminder for you guys is just not to run from your problems right now, or like any difficulties, but I would kind of, I don't like the word fight. I'm going to be honest with you. I hesitate to use that just because of different things I've heard from different people in my past. But the word I'm hearing is like, I would stay and fight. Like I would stay and like face those things and kind of like fight through them. And I feel like you're going to be successful with that, or like that's going to help you be successful, or move you towards success in some way. You know, sometimes it's tempting to like run from certain things when they get difficult, or like run from our problems, but it's just not the move right now. And you know, sometimes it works out. Sometimes it is the move, but not right now is what I'd say. So I'm going to close that reading. The last thing I'm getting before we close it out is they're showing me ice cream again for you guys here. And you know, if anything's been frozen over for you guys, it's not going to be frozen over for you much longer. Like things are going to be thawing out and moving. So that's it. Moving like a Russian river. So hope that was helpful. Did whatever was for your highest good. Let's close that one out. I feel like there's more though. These like closing reading out periods are always funny for me, because sometimes I get like 20 more messages right before I go to close it out, which is funny. I'd say you guys are on the right track, is like what they want to say with that. Oh, that is my most interesting swoosh yet. Check mark. That one actually kind of does look like a rushing river. So we're going to move to the air signs in a second. I'm just going to take a quick water break, and on point. Thank you, Joshua. Glad to hear it. Always the aim, always part of the aim. I'm a water sign, but this felt for me. Hey, if it resonated, nothing wrong with that. That's what I'd say. Like since the 8 ball, perfect. definitely hit with the stuff going on at work. I'm glad it hits. Sometimes like I kind of want to like balance what I say, because I'm always like, part of the aim, like a big part of this is I always am aiming for it being like as accurate as possible, of course. So I'm always glad to hear it's accurate, but sometimes like the accurate message is like someone's dealing with something, and I so sometimes people will leave a comment where like, hey, this is really on point, da 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 da, and they talk about something difficult they're going through, and I don't always want to like heart those comments because I'm like, do I like this? Like I of course, like I like that it's accurate, and I'm really appreciative of that, but I you know those awkward posts where it's like, do I like this? Do I just leave a nice comment? Not like just be nice, but an authentic, like kind comments. Like, you get what I'm saying. Hopefully. Yeah, a lot of cycles ending. Jen is what I'm getting to say as well. River, the universe building my strength really resonates with me. Thank you. You are welcome, and it's going to pay off, is what I'm hearing. Your readings make me feel much lighter. That is perfect. That's also something I aim for, so thanks for telling me, and I'm very glad to hear it. One of the last things I'd want is for someone to come away from the readings feeling heavier in some ways. So, and I feel like there's a lot that plays into people. I don't know if I need to talk about that, but they're telling me to say it. I feel like there's a lot that plays into it helping, or just bringing people to lighter, helping people feel lighter, whatever it is, facilitating that. So lots of beautiful energies in these readings, Brandon. Thank you so much. And that's totally, I think that's part of it as well. So, and that's another part of the aim. There's all these aims, but all for the highest good, of course. Or at least that's one of my aims. So I'm not going to start yet. I'm going to hang out for a second and just take a quick breather. Your messages bring such ease. I'm so glad to hear it. Thank you, Lana Campbell, for letting me know. So I don't do return customer 1010 recommend. Oh, that's right. Thank you, Thank you, Jessica. I super appreciate it. As far as one-on-one readings, I don't do one-on-one readings right now anymore. I might in the future. They're kind of saying maybe not really, but it's not because I haven't been getting. Personally, what I'll say is, like, I feel like the readings have been going really well. The one-on-one readings have been going really well in a sense, because I feel like it's been traditionally getting really good results for people, at least as far as the feedback I've heard from people. Like, I felt like I've been getting a lot of feedback that is accurate and stuff. But on my end, there are certain things I've had to go through to be able to facilitate them that have made it more difficult. Not difficult to do the reading, but difficult for me on like a personal level. That's been making it harder to continue to do it for me. It's just kind of at the point where some of the difficulties made it where it wasn't worth it for me on a personal level. And I don't feel like that's like your guys' fault necessarily or anything like that. It just might be I need to do something else. And so that's why I'm transitioning things right now. So I know like some people are probably not going to like that news. And I so appreciate the amazing people I have met through the one-on-one readings and the sessions I have gotten to do, and all that's brought for me and hopefully for other people as well, in the most positive ways that are, of course, for the highest good. But I feel like I've been really needing to do something else, at least on my end. And like one of the things that kind of is going into that as well is they're telling me to kind of reference this, but there was one channel I was listening to. It was by Lee Harris, actually. And one of the things his guides brought through was like, if you're really suffering to help other people, it's like, what are you actually really doing for the planet? If you think of it, they didn't use these words, but the way I kind of, I guess, took it was like in an as above, so below way. Or if you want to think about it on a more like human level. It's like, at least by the example well, I don't even want to bring it down to that because that's not the full truth of the situation, but on an example level, like what example am I setting? What am I really doing for the world at that point? So I think I just need to find something that's more win-win, if that makes sense, for everyone. So Jessica May Jensen, I will say the one-on-one readings were great, but the membership provides a great level of support too. Thank you. And I'm glad to hear that, because that is part of my intention with that, is it does provide a great level of support. So thank you for saying that. And thanks for the shout out too. And I'm glad that the one-on-one readings were great as well. So thank you so much. Someone asked, well, we'll talk about that in a second. Vibrational integrity actually matters, and I mean that literally. Yes. Thank you, Jessica. I think you worded that very well for me and the people here reading it. So thank you. So they actually would like me to answer this, and then we'll start the air sign soon. But Celeste is asking, how did you learn to channel messages? What I'm getting to say is it did actually in some ways take a while to be able to do it consistently and like on command, if that makes sense. Like I might even say for me, it took a couple years, honestly, but really the way I'll also say it is Source kind of took me on a divinely orchestrated journey through a lot of people, a lot of experiences, people who did this work maybe in different ways, people who could do this, people they had me do this for, where I learned the ins and outs of it in the way that worked for me, if that makes sense. I wasn't necessarily specifically trained by anyone. I feel like that's actually helped me be where I'm at with it right now, though. And I think different paths are going to work for different people sometimes. So if that doesn't mean like stay away from that if you feel called to it, because that could be very helpful and could provide some good, aligned, healthy shortcuts, or that might expedite things for you. But some of the way it started, what would be flash good for me to say here? I'll talk about some of the story, because otherwise it might just take a long time to it might take a long time to go through the whole story of it. But honestly, like it started out with I was at like a Christian metaphysical boot camp, and it's not like I was really Christian at the time. Totally. It was like a very interesting string of circumstances that got me there. But one of the things they talked about, and I'm not Christian anymore, by the way, I grew up Catholic. One of the things they talked about at this like Christian metaphysical like thing was they're like, the Old Testament people and all the stories where people talk to God, that wasn't just for people in the Old Testament. You could do that now. And I was just like, huh. And they had like a lot of really cool stories they had about it. And so they had us go on a break where we tried it. And the way it started for me with that is I wrote down a question to God, and then I heard an answer, and it wasn't like my thoughts. It was different. I'm like, huh, that's really friggin' interesting. And it took some time to really get into what I was doing now, but eventually I was kind of questioning some of the Christian aspects of things, even if there were like certain good things I did get from it, like that, which is probably one of the main things I got from it, honestly, that I carried forward with me. And then it kind of transitioned very easily to like talking to spirit guides, talking to angels, or I still talk to God, but I say Source instead of God now, and it probably doesn't really matter what you call it, but it's all the same. And like this woman kind of came into where I worked, and long story short, she had like written or like a book that was like about her spiritual experiences, and it really answered a lot of the things I was kind of going through at the time and helped me. And then I kind of just found myself around a lot of people who could get messages, who could channel. Like it just kind of came out of the woodwork at the right time. I was like meeting new people who could do it. And I started to, through a certain series of events, I started to like have it almost, I had the things that led to it where, what's the best way to say it? Like it had I don't know how to describe it, but like there was one moment where I felt the big energy, like the energy kind of come over me, and it was like a big energy, and like I didn't really get messages that time, but it was like the, hey, this is what that's like, this is what this experience feels like. And there were times where like they would kind of jump in and like force messages through me, but it wasn't like against my will or like bad or scary at all. They were all good aligned messages. It was just like since I was newer to it, it would kind of like, the words would kind of like choke out of me, if that makes sense. So it'd be like, instead of me like now more fluidly doing it, or when I do like my full channel mode with the eyes closed, you know, it would be like, I'd get like a da 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 da, and then I'd feel the energy leave. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's what's going on. So, but it kind of, as I went through my journey and got more experiences, like, you know, doing readings with friends and like pulling cards and getting messages, or, you know, learning modalities, doing sessions for people and getting messages, or just going about my life and asking my spirit guides, like, okay, what should I do next in this day? Or should I go on a walk or do this? Or what should I eat for lunch? And getting that practice in, and like in those ways and more, it just evolved over time. And they led me again to the experiences where I could do this. So hopefully that wasn't too long-winded, but that's the long and short of it. Well, that's actually the short version, but also Marina is saying, I must have missed something in chat that was like talking about, oh yeah, do you know anyone who teaches Reiki? Yeah, I do teach Reiki over Zoom. So if you do need someone in person, because Marina's saying Brandon would be my first choice for Reiki master, but I need it in person. Totally respectable, by the way. Some people do need that. So I mean, personally, I know a lot of people who, or a very solid number of people who teach Reiki or who could. So I'd find the person who resonates the most for you and just go that direction. The other thing I'll say about that is, actually, I think I'm going to hold those cards closer to my chest for now. So never mind. I'm on a similar journey, so hearing your story helps. Perfect. So glad to hear it. But yeah, the journey will help. So actually, they would like me to start the air signs reading now. Hopefully that detour was good for you guys. I'm a Reiki master, but I'd love to learn more about teaching as a master. Yeah, I think it's interesting because someone else mentioned or emailed me talking about like if I would teach a class about teaching Reiki or energy healing. And I'm not saying you were even like saying, oh, I should do that, but I'm wondering if, I don't know. I don't know if anyone, there might be people out there that teach different classes on it, but maybe I'll sit with that one. Oh yeah, it was Megan. So I don't know, maybe I'll put that together, or maybe, you know, maybe other people will, I don't know. Okay, sorry. I'm getting in a good way distracted because I'm interacted with you guys. So maybe I'm not really distracted. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. You know what? I'll sit with that. I'll see what they say, what they have me do with that. But if that's going to be what's of service to you guys, because and that's what I'm guided to do, I'll definitely sit with that for sure. And you know what? I might actually be moving away from teaching Reiki and focusing on other modalities or classes or things. So we'll see what they have me do with all that. Yeah. And Jessica, yeah, it's weird that I technically can teach it, but don't feel like I have the training to teach. Yeah, and I think there are a decent number of people who have that same experience, and I think some people choose the trial by fire route, if that makes sense. They're telling me to not talk about it anymore and start the air signs reading, so I think I'm going to do that. But otherwise, I would gladly get into the topic with you guys further, and maybe we will later in the live. But so without further ado, I think I will start the air signs reading. But it was great interacting with you guys there. So if you have an air sign, sun, moon, or horizon, we are gonna, not to abruptly stop our other conversation, but this is, of course, for you whenever you see it now or on YouTube. So got the channel messages that came through ahead of time, and my spirit guides, the angels and source, are bringing through any additional information that's for your highest good as I read through these. So they are loving the mountain symbolism for like almost all these readings so far. I think it has come through for every reading so far. I can't remember if it came through for the collect. Excuse me. I feel like you guys as well are overcoming challenges or will be soon. I feel like there have been a lot of challenges that have been like lingering for a time that are going away. Which is good actually. So I do feel like you guys are overcoming a lot or will be soon. I'm getting the weird message like this is your season. So maybe you felt like, hopefully you don't, but maybe you felt like you've had a lot of losing seasons or just seasons that weren't as great as you'd like them to be. I feel like you're gradually improving the season you're in, if that, or the next season, if that makes sense. So I feel like you are going to get a better season soon. I do feel like you need to be a little bit patient with it, but you guys are going to have a good season at least, or there's more on the way that's going to make it better. So have a little bit of patience, but you're not always going to have like bad seasons or like difficulties if you feel like you've been having anything like that going on, like in the past, if that makes sense. I actually feel like you guys are heading into a good season, which is good. So beside all of that here, weird message, but if things like explode in your world, I actually feel like they're leading you in a good direction. So sometimes like a relationship blows up and we're like, oh no, what have I done wrong? But it's like, it was actually kind of like supposed to get you to change course or get you to meet this other person or move on to this other person or things like that. So I feel like if anything's exploding in your life or has recently, it's actually in your favor, even if it doesn't seem like it. And, you know, it's not, I actually like don't have a terrible feeling about it. It's not always fun when like things like that happen. But I wouldn't like stay super attached if you can help it to the things that like are or have been exploding or that have exploded. I feel like it's kind of time to move on from that, and you're going to be getting something better. So it's either like part of your purpose or it's like moving you towards your purpose, if that makes sense. So the first message that came through ahead of time, they showed me like a slam dunk, like, you know, someone in basketball like getting a slam dunk, and the message is like you're moving forward. So the universe is going to be giving you some easy, okay, I need to like explain this one a bit, but some easy ones. So like for instance, like in baseball, there's that term like give me an easy one, where they just kind of like throw a pitch that's really easy to really to hit really well and like hit a home run or something like that. Or it's like an opportunity served up on a silver platter or something like that. So I feel like you're getting like certain things that are easier to knock out of the park metaphorically in life. Like maybe you get like an opportunity at work and you really do well and it really impresses your boss, but it was easy for you. Or just like easier opportunities to have in hand than you've had before. So I feel like the universe is like serving up some easy pitches for you to, and in the best ways, really crush it in life, if that makes sense. The next message, they show me a condor. Usually, I don't know if this really ties in, but usually when condor shows up for whatever reason, it's come to symbolize like a long journey. And maybe there's a better bird I could use than condor. I might have to look it up one of these times and see if they switch it up, but this works for now as long as I'm getting the right message for you guys. They just said there are a lot of long journeys resolving for you. So this seems like a common theme for a lot of these readings right now, but a lot of long journeys resolving for you so you can move to the next thing or like move up in the world, like etc. So you might have certain long-term relationships, you know, it doesn't have to be romantic, that are closing, or long-term partnerships, or maybe it's even hobbies. Like you thought you'd play kickball for the rest of your life. You're like, kickball is my dream. And that's a kind of a joke, but then all of a sudden you kind of feel called to move away from kickball or something like that. So just an example. So if those things close, I wouldn't like freak out about it. It's like part of the journey. It's part of you up leveling. It's not a bad thing. And I wouldn't be afraid of up leveling because you'll have to move or leave certain things behind, is what I'd say as well. Some of you might be tempted to like hold yourself back to keep certain things around, but I actually wouldn't. One, I know this sounds a little bit weird, but maybe you'd kind of grow bored with some of those things if you just kept them around. Two, you know, sometimes we don't see the big picture until later on. So maybe you're in like a situation, you've thought everything's been perfect for so long, but then something happens, you leave something behind, you up level, you keep going with your life. A few years later, you look back and you're like, oh, I see how I outgrew that thing, and I actually needed something different to like move forward to get me to this chapter or to get me to this other thing. So like, it makes sense. So don't stay stuck is what I'd say. And even if you feel like you have to leave things behind a lot because you're up leveling, I actually feel like that's perfect. Maybe for some of you that will lead to a healthy level. If you feel like that's going on, that might lead to a healthy level of detachment. So you're not like clinging to things as much. For others of you, it's just like a life lesson is something I'm getting, but it could be something that helps you be successful in a certain way going forward. By the way, I don't care what success means to you. Like, even if that's like having a good, healthy relationship or that's being a billionaire, like it almost like kind of doesn't matter. As long as you know what success is to you and you're moving towards that. It could just be like being healed and having a happy life. So I don't know if I'd worry too much about what am I trying to say here? Don't worry too much about the definition of success as long as it's a definition that works for you, I suppose. Next, they showed me a basketball court. They sometimes use a lot of basketball analogies for the air signs. I don't know. But the message for you guys is like, I just really wouldn't give up, honestly. There was this message about how the best players in basketball like never gave up, I guess. So the most successful people tend to not be people who give up. So the message is if you don't give up, you win. One of the books that kind of showed up as I channeled this message through was the book Relentless, which is kind of more of a self-help book that I think it was I can't remember what they call him. I can't remember if it was like a trainer or what, but it was a dude wrote it who worked with a lot of like famous basketball players in the NBA as far as like keeping them in shape or getting them to a good place, or people who he had to get healthy from injuries or things like that. And like he was kind of talking about the things he saw, in the most successful like basketball players and things like that. Kind of a good book. I haven't read it in a while, so I don't know if I'd vibe with it as much now as I did, when I was like 22 or whatever. But I don't know. Something about that is popping in for some reason. And I guess Relentless kind of is about there's certain things about not giving up as well. And maybe there's certain things about not letting life defeat you. I can't remember if he literally talks about that in the book, but sometimes if you just don't give up, you win. And I feel like that applies to you right here. Next, for some reason, they showed me a sloth, and there was like a quick visual where the sloth like climbed down from the tree, or they were kind of showing how like sloths, it was something that someone I know has been talking about with sloths every once in a while because they love sloths, and they're talking about a sloth fact, I guess, where it's like sloths will like climb down from a tree and poop and then climb back up like once a week because they take it so long to do it that they only do it once a week. And they were showing the sloth like climbing down from the tree, taking a dump, climbing back up the tree. Weirdly enough, the message for you guys is like, don't rush. Don't rush things. Like rushing things could potentially get you in trouble. Like even if it's like rushing relationships and like trying to move in together right away or getting married within 2 weeks or whatever. Like I'd be kind of taking your time with whatever it is, relationships, projects, a healthy amount of time. You don't have to go at a snail's pace, but sometimes it's tempting to rush when we feel like we have something really good or we feel like we can be successful at something. So we're like, let's rush. I would kind of take your time and like really, in a way that's for the highest good, extract the most you can out of your experiences that you're kind of in, to kind of like make the most of things, if that makes sense. Because you might like miss certain things if you rush, or maybe the universe has some like really amazing gift for you, but if you rush, you kind of like miss it or you don't quite see it. And I'm not saying like you can't have the opportunity for that gift in the future if you do miss something or you forget to heed this message or you heed it and then you look back and you're like, oh, I see what I was talking about now. Like you can get it back probably or get something similar in the future or manifest it. But for now, I wouldn't be rushing things is what I'd say. They did give me the word survival as well. So is there something else I need to get to with this before we move on here? I feel like some of you, and this might not be all of you, but some of you want to like speed run life a little bit. Like maybe you're 22 and you're like, I want to get married and then have the house and then make at least 60K. Then I want to retire at 30. And then I want to, and you want to like have like, it's almost like you want to have a 40-year-old kid by the time you're 30 or something like that. And they're kind of telling you, if that describes you, which is not going to be all of you again, I'd kind of relax a little bit and enjoy the ride. Because you might get to like 80 years old and be like, yeah, I kind of wish I'd taken my time with things. Like there's no reason to rush it or speed run it. Because you kind of don't get anything more out of life by speed running it, is weirdly enough the message I'm hearing for you. Like you might think you do because you hit certain milestones and like crush certain goals or targets or whatever. But it's kind of about the experience on a certain level. And if you're enjoying the experience, no matter how slow you're going, like you're winning, I suppose you could say. And not to take away from anyone who's going through anything like grieving or depression. It's like, yeah, do what you got to do to take care of yourself. But for the rest of you, keep that in mind, if that makes any sense. Okay, so there's more I need to get into with that here. And what I'd also add on to that, now that that came out of my mouth, is if you're not enjoying your experience, that's like your sign something needs to change. Or it's your sign, at least another message I'm hearing with that is your sign something's going to change in the future as well, interestingly enough. But it's a good thing to recognize and ask for something different. And, there's a million different like caveats I feel like I could delve into, or maybe caveat's not the right word, but sometimes we have to go through a certain period to get to the other side and have something new. Like, my example would be I had to like work nights for like a year until, what I do currently took off a bit more and I could quit, because they, there's more details I could go into. They don't want me to right now, but, sometimes you have to do things like that aren't as fun, but, I feel like that's different. So you kind of know what I mean. You guys know. Next message here. What else should we get to here? The next message, they showed me a garbage compactor. I feel like I kind of missed something, but I'm going to ask them to circle back around if there's more I need to talk to about that. So 1 second. Okay, to kind of cut to the chase, I do feel like you guys are going to be enjoying your experience more in this next phase. So that's cool too. Next, they're also showing me the autumn. So for some of you, it's going to be like the autumn season. So with the garbage compactor here, a lot of your issues are actually going to be thrown in the dumpster. I like this, but one of the messages, like, be patient and like keep working through them as you can right now. Not all of your issues are going to last forever. And, if you've been in a long season or you've been going through a lot, it doesn't always seem like the case. Sometimes it does seem like some of your issues are going to go on forever, but I don't feel like they will, which is good. So next here, some of you are like, might be trying to be the best at something because for some reason, again, they showed the Air Jordan, and they love Air Jordan with the air signs sometimes. It's a pun. I'm not always, but with this one, it's like, if you want to be the best, you have to keep going. So we kind of already talked about this, honestly. I feel like with that an earlier message and with like the relentless message about not giving up, but some of you want to be the best at something. You have to keep going. And you have to kind of keep going until you get it, until things click into place. I don't know why this is showing up, but I remember back in the day when I was a kid, someone was talking about, like, a family friend who was also a kid at the time was talking about Dance Dance Revolution, which was, you probably remember it. It was like a dancing game where you'd have this little like mat and you'd like have to like, you'd see like arrows on the screen. You have to like put your foot on the right arrow at the right time. And it was kind of like you were dancing, to these songs that would kind of scroll across the screen. And one thing, I remember just this weird, vivid memory of this person going like, yeah, like it's really difficult at first, or like it's kind of like doesn't work. It's like difficult at first, but then at like a certain place, it just like clicks and you can just like do it. And I don't know why that was popping in as I was delivering that last message here. I feel like what they're adding in though is like, if something's like not clicking for you, like even like regarding success or like something you'd like to do, I feel like it is going to click in soon. Like, maybe you have a realization, you're like, oh, I know what to do to be like successful in this thing I'm trying to be successful with. Or, maybe you're not getting something about life, but it's about to click for you, or it could even be about relationships. So for some reason that's being edited. in as well. They're showing me a banana next, but they're showing it almost like a, you know how like different people in like advertisements will just like do weird things that no one would do in real life, or maybe like, you know, crazy Steve at lunch in school would do something silly like this, but they're showing like it almost looks like a model, and she's taking this banana and putting it over her face so it looks like a smile in this visual. I don't know why I'm hearing this, but what I'm hearing is like, don't force yourself to smile if you don't have a reason to smile. But I feel like you're going to have reasons to smile coming in soon. So, and it could even just be next month. We're doing this live at the end of May. So it could just be very soon even, you know, because June's right around the corner. But there are more reasons to smile coming in, which is cool here. Something about fruit is also like, I don't know if it's important, but it's showing up as important with this message. Like they're showing me like apples, or you know how like people would take orange slices and like put them in their mouth and like pretend that was their smile or something like that. What's up with the fruits that's showing up here? So in this instance, the fruit is actually symbolizing rewards. I feel like there are rewards that have been withheld from you like in the past, or like maybe the universe gave you an IOU in some way, like you were supposed to get something. You know, could have even been at work for some of you, like you were supposed to get this result and like you didn't get it in some way, or like your boss didn't give it to you, or could have been just like a manifestation or life in general. And I feel like you're getting it now. So it could be certain like rewards from the past that were withheld that like you're finally ready for, or the universe feels like knows you'll be able to hang on to it better now, whereas like maybe you would have like lost it in the past or something. So that could be why it was withheld, or that was why it was withheld for some of you. Next, the thing they showed me was a wand, and they gave me the word magic. So, okay, here's the whole paragraph that came through for you. It's tempting to self-implode when things don't go the way you want them to, but honestly, try to have some grace for when things don't go your way, and try to see where the universe is trying to steer you with it, and you can be doing way better in general, now and going forward. The universe is trying to steer you towards something great, but you have to be patient and have grace for what the universe is doing to make it happen through you, for you, etc. And I think it was this reading we were talking about things like exploding, but it was like working out in your favor. So maybe you've had some things in the past that haven't gone your way, or maybe you feel like that's going on right now, or something's falling through and you didn't want it to fall through. One, the universe is saying to have faith. Two is exactly this. Like the universe could be using that circumstance to like steer you towards something really well. It's reminding me of this time that it's sometimes very difficult to describe how things are showing up. But what I'm trying to get to is there was this time I was like teaching a class. What's the best thing to say here? Here's what I'll say. Sometimes you're like doing certain things and it's like, it's of spirit, and maybe you were even like, it seemed like you were guided to do it, or you were, or something like that. And then like, it almost like doesn't go like smoothly in some way, shape, or form. Like maybe you're doing like something technology based, and like maybe you're supposed to, I don't know, do this reading or teach this thing or facilitate this workshop or whatever. And like, maybe it's supposed to be over Zoom, and like the computer keeps like, you know, cutting off from the internet, or like the mic stops working all the time, or like you just have like a ton of issues with something. And you're like, what gives spirit? Like I thought we were like supposed to do this thing. But it could like be your sign that you're supposed to move on from that thing, if that makes sense. For some of you, or like maybe these implosions are like, yeah, like you were supposed to do this for a time, but maybe it's time to start moving away from it, or maybe this isn't the thing for you, or maybe it's making that happen so some nasty result didn't happen in the future, if that makes sense, by like stopping this path or a path in a certain way and redirecting you or something like that. Or it's just redirecting you to the thing you're meant to do. There's a billion things, you know, that this could be doing for you. But really the message, if hopefully I'm not repeating myself too much with this, just have a bit of grace for the things that just don't seem like they're working out, and trust there might be a reason. One of the examples that's coming for me to say is like one time I went for a promotion at a job. I feel like I've used this example a lot, but whatever. I went for this promotion at a job, and it really seemed like I could get it. And it seemed like there were a lot of signs that like would lean themselves to it being a thing. Actually, it turned out those signs were about something different, but we'll kind of get to that. I was going for a promotion at work, and I think there were just a lot of good people that were going for that job, honestly. And I was really like setting the intention to just kind of get it, if it was for the highest good. And then like one like sign that came up for me is I was like, yeah, we're going to do this promotion. And I pulled up my phone on like break at work or whatever when I worked that job. And the first thing that popped up was like this quote. And it was a Stoic philosophy quote. And it was like, I should be suspicious of what I want. And that's not always the case, by the way, for everything. But it was very specific to my circumstances because I was like, okay, that's definitely about like the promotion that I was just thinking about. And like it had that energy where it was like a sign and I could just feel how it connected. I don't know how to describe it, but I just knew what it was about. And I was like, okay, universe, so if it's for the highest good for me to get that promotion, like I asked for it, if there's something better or something else would be for the highest good, please bring me to that. Thank you so much. And so I ended up, I'd already like, put my name in the hat for that position. So I did the interview for it. And it was so interesting because after the interview, I did it. And then like afterwards, I just noticed all these things where I was like, oh, I could have done that better. And like, that didn't flow right. And that didn't come out of my mouth right. And like all these things I just knew I could have done differently. And then they kind of gave me a call right around then. They're like, hey, like, we just want to chat with you about this. And they're like, we ended up going with someone else, but here's some feedback for you. And it didn't work out. But what ended up happening, and what those, probably what those signs were, I don't know. What happened was I didn't get that job, but I was in a better position to put my work into like this, like, my business and doing readings for people. And that's what ended up, taking off. And I was able to quit that job altogether, which was probably the better move for me for my health and well-being or whatever or maybe not totally that, but it was the better option. And that was what was for the highest good that spirit was trying to get me to by imploding that. It was a little less violent than that, but not letting that situation work out. So a lot of storytelling, but let's move on here. Hopefully that all makes sense. Next, this kind of came through for one of the other readings, but there might be more synchronicity coming in for you. And they were just saying to use that to guide your life. Like you might be getting a lot of signs about things, or you might be getting a lot of signs to go in a certain direction, or you're just noticing a lot more synchronicity like in your conversations, on the TV, on internet videos, scrolling through TikTok, whatever. So I feel like that's good because there's more magic, and I feel like it also means there's like an important path source wants you to take, whether it's just important for you or important for the world or both or whatever. Doesn't really matter. I guess it does matter, but it doesn't. So I'd just be paying attention to that as well. Last thing they're showing me, or one of the last things they're showing me, a spider here. It looks like a black widow. I personally, I'm not going to talk about that, but what's up with the spider here? I do feel like there are things you're being guided to stay away from, like very directly. So you might also be getting a lot of signs to like stay away from certain things or certain people. And it might not make sense either, because like the thing that seems logical to you right now might be like going a certain direction, handling a situation a certain way, going with like this friend group over here, perpetually or something like that. But again, there might be some massive changes on the horizon or some like massive truths that are unveiled where it's like, if you don't follow the signs or the synchronicities or your intuition, however you're operating right now, you might realize what the universe was steering you towards a little bit too late, or away from a little bit too late. If you like try to override it too much, I feel like you're gonna have multiple opportunities to like make the right choices regarding all of this as well. Like it's you might even have like multiple warnings. Like I feel like you're gonna have plenty of opportunity to like not that you would consider it messed up. It could just be if you override it anyways over and over and over again, you just get that lesson and then you take that moving forward and you don't do that ever again. But so I want to say it's wrong, but I feel like you have a certain amount of grace and like multiple opportunities to go the right way, to heed the signs. You have opportunities to ask the universe to make it more clear if you don't feel like you're getting it, or something like that. So, but I would like trust those synchronicities, even if it doesn't seem to make logical sense, because it does if you knew the whole story or knew how things were going to play out, if that makes sense. Like, the example I'm getting would be like, maybe you want to go towards a job and it seems like it pays more and it seems like a great opportunity, but then like the universe keeps going like, no. And then like, maybe that company's about to go under. Maybe that boss would be horrible. Like, maybe there's something better for you in like a month if you hold out. So that's just an example, but you understand at this point. like there's a lot of danger you're being kept away from, if that makes sense. And it doesn't have to be literal danger. It could just be a bad path or something that would send you on a detour you wouldn't want to go on or something like that. So I'm going to start to close the reading there. They're showing me, okay, they want me to close the reading. So I hope that was helpful, resonated, did whatever was for your highest good, and we will kind of close it out there for the air signs. Never need to worry. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Ooh. I always get to this, like, well, not always, but I oftentimes need to use the restroom around this time on the live. You're welcome, Sophia. Thank you for that. Someone sent me like a heart or something. Thanks for the unbreakable, or no, thanks for the heart unbreakable spirit is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. Thank you. And thanks for anyone who's been gifting me or it's called water signs for a reason. I love it. That's why I have to pee every time. Yeah, I think I will just go use the restroom in just a second here. Great to see you too, Kelly. Hope you're doing great. But yeah, I just wanted to say no obligation to do this, of course. Just want to say thank you to anyone who gifted me, was hearting the screen. I really appreciate that support or whatever, I really appreciate it is what I'd say. I don't see any mods on if you ever need help, Brandon. I don't know if you're offering to be a moderator, but I'm definitely willing to make you a moderator if you want to, Marina. And of course, like if you do end up doing that, that's no obligation to show up every Sunday or anything like that. It's just I guess like an extra hand when needed, whenever you happen to be here. Thank you, Marina. So just let me know if you'd want to be a moderator. I'm happy to make you a moderator. And thank you so much for offering, because I do want to give a shout out to people who do usually moderate. Thanks so much for the help as well. Thank you. Always a pleasure to be in your life. You're welcome. You've been a lot more engaging in the comments than before. It's nice. Yeah, I'm trying to be more engaging between, the readings and making more fun. So thank you for the feedback. I am glad to hear it. So, okay, I actually need to use the restroom real quickly before I do anything else. And I'm going to be right back. So if you guys, okay, perfect. I guess I'll do that now. And then I'll use the restroom. How do I do this? I don't want to do the wrong button. Okay. Thank you so much, Marina, for volunteering. No, I appreciate it to be continued. I did not do water signs yet. I'm about to. I want to say thank you to Marina for volunteering to be a moderator. And Marina's been awesome. So I have, and they just told me to do it as well. I was guided to do that. So thank you. And I'm going to use the restroom. I'll be right back. You are welcome. So see you guys in a second. Okay, I'm back. Okay, they would like me to start the water signs reading right now. So I will do that. I'm actually going to drink some water first. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll hang out for just a second more, and then we'll probably do full channel mode, and let's go from there. The first thing I'm getting as I start this reading, or this show me, I'm gonna go through my spiel first, but they're showing me lavender. So I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time, and of course my spirit guides, the angels and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as I read through these. So with the lavender here, they're kind of talking about lavender from like an herbalism concept. Usually it's like calming. I believe it's like, I don't know if you would claim it's anti-anxiety. I feel like there's some sort of, but I believe it's purported to support, the bodily response regarding things like anxiety and stuff like that. It's also, I was about to go through like a list of lavender facts. So let me see what they'd actually like to get to for you guys here. I almost feel like if you think of the concepts of lavender and what it brings, I feel like that's kind of what you guys need right now. So you might even feel called to work with lavender in like almost a more of an herbalism sense. Like, I don't know if they, hopefully I'm thinking of the right thing as well, by the way, but I don't know if they make like a lavender tea or if they make like lavender like tinctures, or I think they have lavender essential oil. Maybe you want to diffuse some of that or something like that. I feel like those properties are going to be helpful for you. It's also something that can kill germs, if I'm not mistaken, like lavender essential oil, in like things like that. So maybe it's partially like a cleansing thing, but if you feel called to work with lavender in some way, I really would. Kind of a interesting message to start out with, but I'll roll with it. I feel like waterfalls have shown up for the water signs a lot these past few weeks. And right when I ended the air signs reading, they were showing me a waterfall, which maybe that was just because I had to use the restroom. But let me see where they'd like to go next with the reading then here. So they're steering me away from the waterfall. They're actually showing me a fire, actually, like almost like a house on fire, interestingly enough here. I almost feel like you're being saved from the fire, if that makes sense. So maybe there are certain like fires in your life that are happening that spirit's putting out for you, or you're being moved away from certain difficulties or things like that. Actually, I have a message that came through ahead of time that seems like it's speaking to that as well. But if there have been any like fires in your life, I feel like, especially like negative fires, I feel like that's being rectified or made better in some way, which is good here. They're showing me a mansion next. Sometimes you just deserve like more than you have, or you're worthy of more than you realize. So I feel like some of you guys, if not all of you, are going to be shown like that you're worthy of more than you think you are, or you're going to start receiving more than you thought you could. Like, especially if you've been working on your receiving, in any way, shape, or form. I feel like that's coming in more, which is going to be really good. They want to have me read this next message to you that came through ahead of time. So the next message is like, be patient with yourself as well. Like, there's a message that transformation can happen quickly, but sometimes you just kind of have to go through the process as you transform. It's not always overnight, so be patient with yourself as you transform. There has definitely been a lot of transformation going around with this crowd. I feel like the water signs might have been feeling it pretty hard though, so if you're transforming and you're transforming, just be patient with yourself. Like, you'll be brought through this process probably with a certain amount of ease, but it might also take patience and maybe a bit of fortitude as well here. What's the next thing? So we'll read the next one. For some reason, I don't like bringing the symbolism into this, just because some of the maybe even traumatic associations some people might have with this, but they showed me Jesus in the word rescued. My stance that I get intuitively is, we didn't really need saving. I know it's a common Christian teaching that like Jesus came and saved people's souls, but I don't really get that anyone's souls needed saving in the first place. I feel like that teaching, we'll get to that later, I guess. But the message is like, they gave me the word rescue. They said there is a lot coming to rescue you regarding your current troubles. So it kind of seems like it links back with the earlier message we were talking about before, but I feel like if you've had like a lot of troubles, that's going away. And maybe there are certain things that have been like a little bit stubborn that spirit is helping you out of, or just helping to like kind of rescue you regarding. It's not necessarily a Jesus thing. It was just the symbol that showed up for this for some reason. So we don't need to take this religious or have a religious discourse about this either, but just that's the message I was getting with that one. They are showing me a helicopter with that one. There was that sound that was going around on TikTok a lot, where there's that song where the dude is singing in that. It's like, I don't even want to try to sing it right now. Like, not in the mood. But it's this dude like yelling or singing helicopter in like an accent. And usually helicopters are something they show when there's a message about being rescued from a situation or something like that, because it's almost like being airlifted out of something like. So I want to see if there's a different message with the helicopter though. Sometimes there are surprising things and ways that spirit has to get people out of situations or to make something happen. I feel like you're getting some of those. So, maybe as an example, what they're showing is like someone stuck in a forest fire, and like the last thing they expect is like a helicopter to fly overhead and let down like a rope and like lift them out of it. Because maybe it seems like there's too much smoke, like a helicopter wouldn't be able to make it or something like that. So I don't know. Some of you might be like, no, that's the exact way I'd expect to be rescued from a forest fire. So I'm sorry, but that's just what they show me as an example. And, I feel like you're getting some unexpected like developments or ways spirit is working to just change certain things for you. I would just run with it. I don't know if I have to say much more about that, so I think I won't. Next thing they're showing me is like a race car, but it's like old fashioned. It almost looks like a hot rod or something like that, or like it's kind of old and rusty as well. It's like something you'd expect to see in like the 50s, honestly, or maybe 60s. So what's up with I'm not sure if hot rods were around back then, but let me stay with this for a second. They're showing me the words like it's not a race. I know the other signs had like similar messages, but if some of you feel like you're racing to finish lines in some way in your life, I'd almost kind of stop doing that. It's kind of a reminder that life isn't a race. I know it's like tempting to move forward quickly with things, and sometimes that's warranted, but there might be things you're rushing through, some of you, that you shouldn't rush through. For others of you with the race car here, let's see. Like they're giving me the word heyday. Maybe some of you feel like you're out of your heyday in some way, but there's actually like so much more for you. And I actually kind of feel like that's why they don't want you to treat certain things like they're a race, or life like it's a race. It's because like there just might be like so much more for you. And if you kind of like pace yourself, like you get all of it, if that makes sense. And this sounds like a little bit different than you might think, but it's almost like if you rush forward on certain things, like maybe you get like exhausted and you have to like rest a really long time, and then you kind of like miss some of it or something like that. I never want to like paint that picture like you're going to miss something in your life that you're supposed to experience, because I don't totally buy that necessarily, but in this scenario, like rushing is going to have you missing more than you realize in some way, shape, or form. So do your best not to rush, if that makes sense, and trust your intuition on how fast to go or what to do. So I wouldn't like freak out about that message, but if you are treating life like a race, I would stop doing that. We're kind of on this like race zone still, because they're showing me a racetrack next, but it's like a go-kart racetrack. The air signs had a similar message, but they're kind of talking about how some people get really intense about racing, and maybe that's as it should be for them. Maybe that really fits what they're trying to do, or what they need in life or the lessons they need, or could be a number of things. But sometimes it's the people who are having the most fun on that go-kart racetrack that are actually winning, maybe some of the people taking it too seriously are missing out on some of the fun they could be having. Or, I'm getting a weird story that's going into this message as well. Like maybe they're at this go-kart track and there's this person doing I guess in this scenario, it's a dude who's like racing and he's taking it very seriously. And there's this like, I don't know, there's this person or girl or, whatever you're into. This is just an example. So doesn't matter. Take the example as it resonates. But there's this girl that's into him and he's like taking it so seriously. He like doesn't realize it. Like he's not like realizing there's this other thing he could be having on top of this experience. And he could have both. So in some ways, like what I want to say is like stay open to life. And it might be helpful to not just see things one way, like taking like go-kart racing uber seriously and like missing out on all this other life, for example, like kind of like tunnel visioning too much. I feel like I'm in a weird track with this message, but let me sit with this for a second longer here. I guess like really what they're trying to say is kind of what they originally said, is like, don't miss out on too much by like treating life like it's a race, or like try to have a bit of fun with things. Hopefully this is just making sense to what I'm trying to get to with this message. There's one more thing they'd like to get to with it though here. Sometimes if you just loosen your grip a little bit on things, like they really, really flow. And sometimes it's just a tiny bit. The example they're showing me is like in baseball. Like I used to pitch a bit in baseball, and then I didn't pitch not that this matters, I didn't pitch as much in high school, but there's one time where I was pitching and the coach was like, all right, hold that sucker like an egg. So it's like if you grip the ball too tight, like it doesn't work. If you hold it too loosely, of course it also kind of doesn't work, but sometimes you just have to like let go a little bit and then everything flows. So try not to have too tight a grip on things right now or take things too seriously right now is kind of what I'm trying to say in so many words and stories. In the next message, they did have something to say about like flow. One message on top of that as well for flow is like be you and things will flow. Like be you and like certain issues are actually going to lift more or fully. And so I guess one of the keys for you guys right now is just being yourself. And of course you're meant to be yourself is something they said as well. So as far as like, what does that mean? If any of you are like, what does that mean? Sometimes with things, there's a lot of different things I could say, but sometimes with certain things where you're like, you kind of just don't know what's being said, because a lot of people throw the term be you and be yourself around. And I really, really love the concept. But one thing you could do is like set the intention for it to show up. And once it does, just kind of recognize that energy and be like, oh, okay, I get it. Or, you could meditate on it. Maybe it's helpful for you to kind of get the energy of it and like feel what that's like and be like, okay, I get it now. And then you can kind of step into that energy more, or it'll be less of a mystery to you. I think sometimes a lot of these things or these concepts can be solved by asking the universe to show them to you intuitively, because maybe there are certain people out there and maybe they don't even know what they're talking about when they say it. Or, maybe they have their own understanding or whatever. But if you can access your intuition about certain things and you get the knowing about it, or like, oh, okay, I get it, be you. And that can be helpful as well. But so I don't know, keep that in mind is what I'd say. What else would be fast good for us to get to right now? There was a message to show me fog. They just said if there's any confusion, it will lift. So you guys might have confusion lifting right now. They showed me the moon tarot card as well. And if you feel like you've been going through a moon phase or anything like that, and moon phases are typically something like there's either like you're not sure what to do as much, or maybe the path doesn't seem as clear, or maybe you're just not sure how things are going to turn out as much. Or maybe there's, that's not the direction they want me to go with that, what I was about to say. So I feel like that's about to lift, or like, there's going to be less moon and more sun, or less moon and more star, or things like that. Like it's going to be a bit more clear, I suppose. And I feel like that's going to be really helpful, which is good pretty soon here. Next, the message they gave me the words higher road. They just said you guys are meant to go higher than you are right now, of course. So sometimes it's hard to imagine it could be a plethora of different reasons for different ones of you. But once you get there, it makes sense. Like once you kind of up level. So, maybe some of you are at a level and you're already pretty high up and you're like, oh, I can't imagine going higher. I'm not sure what that would be like. But then you get there, you're like, oh, that's awesome. Some of you, maybe you just have things going on in your circumstances where you don't realize how you even could, because it seems like there's obstacles or whatever like that. I don't feel like that one's going to resonate with as many of you. But you are meant to go higher and probably keep going higher, essentially. So you guys are going to be brought higher, which kind of seems simple as a message, but that's what I'm getting. So I guess that's that with that one here. The other thing they're showing me with this is maybe it seems like there's like a cutoff to how high you can go in a certain way. And as far as what this means by going higher, I kind of feel like it's vibrational, or it's kind of like a level in your life, or like the level you're at, like spiritually, or just who you are as a person, if that makes sense, like how evolved you've become, especially that. And, if you think of like a building or even a skyscraper with an elevator, there is like, usually it seems like only so high you can go in that building, in that elevator. But coming back to the helicopter, what if you can get on the roof and then you're on a helicopter and it requires something different, but you go higher yet, if that makes sense. Or maybe you get into a spaceship and blast off into outer space. And it's just an example. So, so in that immediate circumstance, you might not think you can go any higher in that building, but what if there's another way that can take you higher? And so even if it seems like you can't go higher, I feel like you can, or there's a way, or that will come in, if that makes sense. Could even be in business is something I'm hearing as well, like you going higher in business or finding more success or starting another business or something like that. So for those of you who do that sort of thing, or maybe you feel like your salary is capped at work, but then you get a new job, like things like that. So that's all cool. Or there's a side hustle that comes in or something. The last message I have for you ahead of time is they showed me a bowling ball, and it was a message to there were kind of similar messages that came through for the other signs as well, but bowl through your obstacles. So you guys are also going to be overcoming a lot if you keep moving forward. And sometimes the best path is to move like through things rather than like avoiding them or like trying to kind of skirt around them. Or maybe even trying to just let them pass. So if you're going like through your life right now, instead of trying to like go around it, if this makes any sense, you're going to be winning. So the examples that came through ahead of time, because I asked them to describe this, and they're like, some of you might be trying to avoid like work or like certain conversations you need to have or like certain things like that. But if you go like through them and like just kind of do them, like you'll come out on top. So what they kind of then said is like, it's actually pretty simple. Just do what you need to do. So I would do what you need to do and just kind of almost like move through your obstacles, move through the things you need to do, conversation you need to have, like kind of whether you want to consider it, facing it head on or whatever, that's going to be helpful. They actually might not want to have me go too much further. So I kind of feel like I'm picking up on like a weird energy with this one, or maybe it's just me. I don't feel like it's just me though. So I don't know why they wanted me to say that, but they did. Let me sit with this just a second longer and see what they'd like me to get to for you guys next. The next thing they're showing me is they're showing me golf. Like they're showing like the golf ball. There's like the golf brand on the golf ball. There's like the swing of the golf club and like the noise it makes when someone hits a golf ball, with like so what's up with the message here? I guess there just must be a lot of like endings for people right now. But in this scenario that they're showing me, someone is like playing golf and they've already finished like the whole course. Like they finished all the holes, but it's almost like they didn't realize it, or they're still playing anyways, and like they won't stop. What is this pertaining to though? So maybe there are certain situations in your life that you have like ended or that have ended and like you're almost like keeping them dragging on like a zombie. Like it kind of just needs to die or something like that, whether it's like a relationship you're keeping alive out of for some reason, or a hobby or a habit you need to quit, but you just like won't do it or something like that. So like very strange message, but there's things that have ended that like you need to like realize have ended and kind of like move on from. And maybe it's just like in your head, like maybe I don't know if I totally like this example, but maybe there's like someone you wanted to date like 5 years ago, and like you're kind of living your life like, oh, maybe I still have a chance, maybe I still have a chance, but it's like that person has moved on. Maybe like you've moved on, but it's like you're just kind of still in your head, like hoping it'll work out, or like thinking it will, or thinking it'll come back around, or you're still thinking about it for some reason. It's like time to kind of move on and cut ties and move on with your life, if that makes sense, because there's like a new phase ahead. So if something's ended and it's ended, I would just try to let it go. It's as simple as that. If you realize what this is talking to for you as I'm going on, because like the person playing golf past the 18th hole isn't like really accomplishing anything. Like they might think they're like practicing their swing or anything like that, but they like don't need it. And it's kind of hard to gauge like if they're playing accurately if they don't have a course to play on, or like a hole to shoot towards or something like that. So if anything needs to end, just end it is what I'd say. Anything else with this reading before we part ways here? I know this, like the water signs reading has been a little bit shorter than the other ones. It kind of feels like it. And there might be like a few more messages, but I feel like I'm probably going to close it pretty soon here. So they are showing me like a goat or like a sheep here. I don't know. There's like a message where some of you might be afraid of like losing something, but you're really only going to lose what you need to lose, or like what's for the highest good for you to lose. Cause they're, like how people shear sheep and they, the sheep doesn't like really lose a lot to my knowledge, when it's sheared and has the wool sheared off of it, like it grows back. It didn't really like lose anything. So, well, what's the message here? It's like, okay, if you're like losing something, like, I feel like if you're losing something, it probably just needs to go. Honestly, it's kind of like a sheep being sheared. Like it's not really a big deal. And maybe it's even beneficial, cause if the sheep never gets sheared, it like turns into a big mess for the sheep, and like the hair gets all knotted and it covers its eyes and things like that. So, I don't know. That's just something kind of going on with that message there. I'm going to close the reading there. I hope that was helpful and resonated, the parts I did get to here. There were some parts that felt a little bit weird, but hopefully it was still good for you. And I'm going to close that one out here. And if they have other messages, I'm sure they'll bring them through while we're hanging out here. So hope that was helpful. Did whatever was for you guys good. We're probably going to move to the full channel in a second, but I'll hang out for a second and just see what's going on in chat. You're welcome, Dana. You're welcome, Disco Boy. Woo, I am feeling it. I almost feel like I need to kind of stop in a second here. I might still do the full channel, but totally resonated for me. Perfect. Thank you, Kara. Thanks for the big love, Unbreakable Spirits. Thank you. Confirmation. Perfect. You're welcome, Sophia. Thank you, Shamika. I know. For my own personal self, I kind of needed to end that chapter for now, but so I'm sorry about that, but thank you. Just curious, what is one of your hobbies? I guess you could say guitar. Oh, thank you, Shamika. No, and it has been good chatting with you all the times I got to as well. So thank you. But yeah, guitar and music. I love songwriting. I love playing guitar. It was something I was very serious about for a good probably 10 years of my life, starting around 16. So many confirmations. Thank you. You're welcome. I so appreciate the feedback and so glad to hear it. And I for some reason, it might not have even been me. Like I could have just been picking up on something. Like I felt weird in certain areas. Maybe I didn't, but something was weird while I was doing it. But the confirmation, it just lets me know it's still good for you, that matters. So I'm glad to hear it. As far as like other hobbies right now, I don't know if this is a hobby, but I love kombucha. I am, that's like something I really love is just kombuchas. I haven't really brewed it anytime recently, but I love buying and drinking kombucha. One of the things I missed from living in North Carolina, because I used to I guess I did live in Asheville one time. I lived around Asheville, and they'd have a ton of places with like kombucha on tap and like a lot of local like kombucha brands and stuff like that. And I kind of missed that a little bit, but I just realized I have a really good one in the fridge though, so now I'm excited. Thanks for the messages. It makes for a peaceful painting session that I look forward to every Sunday. That's so cool. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Lainey, kombucha good? Heck yeah. Another drink I really like, Olipop, which is maybe not as healthy as kombucha. Maybe it is, but I think it's still very plant-based. I think they have a lot of like stevia, probably they sweeten it with, but it's pretty low sugar and it tastes like sodas. And they did a really good job with some of them, honestly. I think they forego like the food dye as well, which I really appreciate. Not that I have like super big struggles with food dye when I do have it, but to me, like with things like soda, like it's already in the can. I'm not looking at it. I don't care. I just care about how it tastes for me personally. But Olipop is a good one, especially like the cola is really good. The Dr. Pepper spinoff they did, which is like Dr. Goodwin, is like super good. The root beers, a lot of them are super good, but never heard of that. I'm in Europe. Yeah, Olipop might be like a US thing or a North America thing, but and hopefully there's not something in it that's banned in Europe and I just don't realize it, but so good. Heck yeah. But yeah, sorry, that's another thing I like. As far as hobbies, I'm hesitant on this one. I do play video games occasionally is what I'd say, and there have been very vast swaths of time where I cut video games out and really focused on like other things like self-development or other things. But, in a weird way, like one thing I'll do is I'll almost like practice my intuition while I'll play, because I'll just like have my guides guide me through like, okay, what do I do next? What do I do next in this thing? I definitely don't play things with a ton of violence or that just don't feel good to me as much, but sometimes I just find myself happier if I let myself play sometimes. So I don't know if that's a hobby, but that's another thing that I'll do occasionally. And yeah, I guess a lot of my time's really devoted to like channeling and spiritual stuff. And as it's one thing I've been working on is balancing my life, because that used to be, I don't know if it was ever a hobby, because I think it was always an important part of my life, but it took up a lot of the time that like a hobby would. For instance, like, channeling through symbols, learning to channel, doing energy work stuff, working with crystals, building crystal grids. So, but now that it's like something I do for like my income, which is, that has been a dream come true. That's been really amazing. Is I'm kind of like, what do I do with the rest of my time? So that has been an interesting thing. I've been, I don't know if you want to say working through or just kind of sitting with, is like, what do I do now that this is what I do? But it's a good problem to have, I think. And I am very appreciative of this being the case, is what I'd also say. You have lovely energy. Thank you, Sophia. Fave games or bands? Ooh, that's a fun question. Your city has its own soda. Ooh, what city? If you don't mind. Did I miss the channeled messages? So we didn't do the full channel mode message. We did do all the readings so far. Panda Isles. I know that I might have been talking for a second and you commented that a second ago, but I will be posting the whole thing on YouTube either tomorrow or on Tuesday. So that'll be happening. Favorite games. I've if you asked me like in the past, I would probably have told you a different answer. There's some different games I've really liked Stardew Valley is really fun. It's a really chill kind of farming thing. No Man's Sky is really fun as well. I guess like in the past, I have liked games like Zelda Breath of the Wild came out pretty recent, 5 years ago, I guess. I did like that one when it came out. One thing I've run into with video games is I can't like play for too long, or I start to like get a headache, or I start to like feel sick and like nauseous, and I could just be just the technology and screen time. So I don't know if I need to just get some additional like because there's this Twisted Sage makes these like things that are like tensor tools that really help with that. Like I have one on my phone that helps. It completely helps. Same with my computer and stuff. So I don't know if I need to do something like that for like the controller or whatever, but so can't do that too much. As far as bands I'm in a weird point with still, because a lot of the music I used to listen to, it's like a sensitivity thing. I can't deal with it too much, even if I like the music. That makes sense. Like I used to listen to a ton of like metal and like progressive metal and rock and stuff like that. So I used to love like Periphery is a band I used to like a lot, or like Dream Theater. When I was 16, like Metallica was like my favorite band, things like that. And nowadays I listen to a lot of singing bowls and like some of the sound frequencies on YouTube or things like that. I'll listen to Lee Harris's music just because I don't always know what else to listen to that will feel good to me energetically. So I haven't, and sometimes I'll still go back and listen to, some like progressive metal or Periphery or things like that. But I just noticed, as I like sit with my energies and system, I'm like, how much of this can I take? And a part of me's almost wanted to like, what if I show up and I start working with like, or writing some like metal again, but I have like that more, it's like channeled or like more of a good intention behind it, spiritually, and like, how would that shift the energies and how would that, feel? So like high vibe metal would be, I wonder like what would happen with that. So I don't know, but those would be some of the bands and like just some of the games I used to like and stuff like that. So it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm just getting in the bath. See you soon. I hope you have a great bath. Thanks so much for tuning in, Sophia. Musically, we are twins, past and present. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. No, totally. High vibe metal sounds amazing. I think so too. And maybe there are certain people out there doing it, but right now a lot of the lyrics can kind of be a little bit sad boy and a lot of the more mainstream like metal bands out there. So it's kind of tough to listen to personally with where I'm at now anymore. Or like for me, I'm not complaining, but when music's too like over dramatic, I have a tough time with it. Cause I'm like, I kind of lacking some emotional intelligence and emotional skills in this one. But if people are singing about certain circumstances, and I know sometimes it's just about getting the emotion out or whatever, but with where I'm at now, it's just I start like rolling my eyes sometimes and I can't live without you. I'm like, oh, that's unhealthy and codependence. But I'm in Berlin and a cool, fun. Oh, that's right. Young artistic hood, to answer your question. Deaf good for musicians. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize Berlin was good for musicians, but that's cool. Cool. I'm so sorry. I know we talked about doing the full channel mode today, and they just kind of said like, hey, like, why don't we skip the full channel mode today? Like, we're sorry to me. So I might do that. I feel like that's going to be good for me, actually, because my energies feel like they kind of took a little bit of hit. Not like you guys were, I don't know, maybe someone was, attacking somewhere along the line. I don't feel like it, though. I feel like it's more like just like, maybe from some of the channeling I've done today or some of the other things, but I feel like my energies kind of took a hit in that way. So maybe it'll be good for me to kind of not do that one today, which I'm a little, personally, I'm a bit disappointed in, but it just might be better for me today for some reason. So sorry about that, guys. I was really expecting to do that. But it might actually be a little bit too much either for you guys or for me or both if I do that. So I think we'll just kind of, and I'm sure some of you would have been totally fine, by the way, and maybe I would have been too, but I don't know. That's what I'm getting right now. You're welcome, sober girl. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't mean to like string you all along at the end there, thinking I was going to do that. So I'm sorry for anyone who stuck around just for that. Yeah, you're welcome. It's all good. I'm also excited to have a little nap. Rest is good. Totally. No worries. It's all good. You gave us a ton of messages. Thank you, Dana. So glad to hear it. Next week, I feel like I'll be back with that though. So the full channel mode messages. Yeah, I'm getting, I might have had a lot to process energetically if I did that right now. So I don't know what's up, but I'll trust it. You are welcome, Dana. Thank you. So I don't know if I'm closing the live yet. I might hang out for just a second. You hit a lot of home runs today and lots of anxiety to solve. Thank you. No, totally, Janice. I appreciate it. Don't say sorry. Thank you, Rhoda. You're right. You're right. Yeah, so, but yeah, I hope I might stick around for a little bit and just kind of hang out for a second and just chat with y'all. So hopefully so far the live's been good, you know, what you guys needed so far, those of you who caught it, and hopefully that all was helpful. So Steph, will you ever go back to doing personal readings? Probably not, is what I'm getting to say right now. You know, maybe as a surprise later on or for like a short span of time, but it has proven to be just a bit much for me in what I have to go through to do them. And I know that's like, I'm not going super in depth on like what that all is. But yeah, it's just, I kind of feel like I need to do other things, which I know is kind of could be a disappointment for some people. But I do, like some of you guys have said, like I do have to look out for myself. And I know that another thing that's interesting with that is I do still do a lot of the general readings on like TikTok and YouTube and all that. And that's been a big part of like what I've been doing. I feel like I still will, honestly, but yeah, we'll see how I end up shifting my work or what happens here. Yeah, Dana, I can read between the lines. It sounds like a lot. Yeah. It definitely has been. So yeah, just for me at that point, it's not like I don't appreciate the good things that came of it or getting to do it, because it's, you know, there's a lot of good that happened through that, you know, around it as well. And even in that, and there was definitely a time where that was all I wanted to do, but for whatever reason, it's just a bit much for me, whether it's on a sensitivity level and all of that I like pick up as I go into doing them, or just the drain on me. You know, I found like after the readings, just something about it, just I just need to have more space for other things in my life. So, you know, something we can just transition to something that's more win-win for all of us. And maybe it'll even be better for you know, you guys as well, or whoever ends up, you know, interacting with my work going forward. I appreciate the advice to take my time with the journey. I needed to hear that. You're welcome. I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes we just need that reminder. Good balance. Totally. Woo. Man, I don't know if I just went deep with those readings earlier or what, but I'm hearing, I think part of it was the transmission. I guess fun fact, like even just like the readings where I'm not full channel mode, what I've noticed and what seems to happen is there is still like a channeled like transmission that's, you know, from source that's happening. So those must be hitting a little harder than normal or something. I I have to work out something similar where people don't have so much personal access. That's definitely can be part of it. I totally understand what I feel like what you're saying with that one, and I do feel like you'll get there. I think that was Jessica. Yeah, I feel like you'll get there as well. Almost 75K likes. Yeah, thank you guys. That's awesome. Because it can be a lot to have a lot of people who do have a lot of access to you, and I've personally had to pare back from you know, not always, because I do like to kind of keep up with the comments and interact and like engage with you guys, or you know, like hang out like this and things like that. But I don't always check all my DMs or things like that. Like it can be too much. I'll say what I'll kind of go back to something that I heard Lee Harris say one time, where he was kind of talking about like in one of his things he did, like, you know, sometimes when you have a lot of people you work with, or you're starting to put yourself out there publicly, there might be a lot of people or a certain amount of people who want to, and this isn't saying like, oh, I'm never going to work with anyone one-on-one in any way or anything like that, but it's like you do have to have a certain amount of boundaries up, because you could have like 10 people reaching out to you that want help with XYZ, or you to channel on XYZ, I guess more in my circumstance. And while I'd like love to help all 10 of those people in that day, like I might still, back in the day, I might still have 4 other personal readings I'm doing that day, or, these other things I need to do for my business or people in my personal life, or time, for myself, where it's like, I can't always just have that open for, not that it's always people's intention to take advantage of, another person, but people to take advantage of, or, it's like, it can be a lot. It adds up very quickly when it's like 10 DMs asking for something, or asking for a message, or help with something. Like it just, you can't do it all. Like you can't, like there was a quote or a thought that came to me at one point, like about like kind of the similar vibe, where it's like, you can't always be the emergency hotline for people. Especially when you're just one person, like, it doesn't work. And, as much as maybe, especially if you're someone who's trying to be helpful in the world, like you want to be able to, it can just be too much. And, you also just have to look after yourself. So, I can't play video games anymore either. Movement makes me nauseous. I'll stick to old Mario. I understand. Cannot deal with people contacting me like more than one person. I understand this. A day it drains me, especially as a projector. No, I understand. I think that can be a whole journey sometimes, is learning how to deal. Yeah, maybe not, but I understand is what I'll say. I hope you have a beautiful Sunday too, Aquarius. You are so welcome. Will you do a crystal grid live again? I'll consider it. I feel like the first ones the 2 that I did, I kind of ended up, which is good because I learned something, I guess is a good thing I took away from it. I kind of learned like I probably would want to do it a little bit differently. Because I think sometimes I'd be like, I'd be focused on building the crystal grid, but I'd also be like talking to people and also like answering questions, and which was fun. But I think there'd be times I'd get like distracted and kind of like answer something differently than I wanted to, or, but I might in the future. I'll definitely consider it, because I haven't, I guess I have and I haven't. I loved working with crystals a ton in the past, and I don't know if maybe in some ways I have, but I haven't always been working with them in the same ways as much. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. I can't find them on YouTube. I thought I had them in like a specific playlist, but I'll have to check on that. I wonder where those went. What is a crystal grid? So there's working with crystals. Like, you have crystals that have certain properties that you might carry on your person to help you throughout the day, or have in your home just to kind of to do whatever's for the highest good for it to do. But a crystal grid is where you kind of take crystals and you arrange them together, and it has kind of a bigger energetic effect, or like a specific energetic effect. And sometimes you can work with, people will make wooden boards with carvings that will have sacred geometry on them, and you can use that as like a framework to kind of build the grid around, or you can just do it intuitively. But you can have some really big, potent, energetic effects, one with crystals alone, but with like a crystal grid, and like whether you're just building it intuitively and like having it do whatever's for that's good for it to do, or you have an intention that you're building the crystal grid with. So it can be another way to enact an intention as well, or do some energy healing, or do healing or things like that. So it's kind of just putting crystals together in a specific pattern to I suppose, but you get certain energetic results or effects from it. Thanks, Brandon. This has been really helpful. You're welcome, Catherine. You're so welcome. So I'm actually starting to get really hungry, so I need to probably feed myself in a second here. I'm probably going to close the live soon in a second. I guess I'll, if this has been helpful for anyone here, I'll do a quick second of self-promotion. I do have a monthly membership that through my website you can sign up for if you're curious. I do, full channel mode messages, channel guided meditations for certain levels, weekly channel timeless picker readings, things like that. So that's available. I guess I have some other things available like that aren't a membership. Like, there's the red package, which is 3 channeled MP3s to help with the root chakra. And, I'll have more things coming out in the future here. I guess because I was going to talk about some classes coming up. I do have an intro to channeling class coming up in like a week. If you've been curious about expanding your gifts, if you're just starting out, or just getting more in touch with that and channeling more. So that's available as well. And I suppose I do have a book that's out as well that you can find on Amazon or through my Linktree, which is meant to be, something that's also helps you channel and get into conversation with your spirit guides. And I suppose that's it for the promotion. But yeah, so I'd say that's up to you guys with what you feel called to or drawn to. So, that's awesome, Kay. I hope you love it. Hope it does great things, and whatever's for your highest good for you and is helpful, of course. So I read your book and I loved it. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. I appreciate it, Allie. Okay, so they keep telling me I need to close this. So I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you guys. Great book. Thank you, Marina. Marina, thanks for volunteering to be a moderator. No obligation, but I really appreciate you helping out today. So thank you. And I'm wishing you guys well. I always appreciate getting to do this, getting to channel for you guys and facilitate these lives for you. And always glad that these are helpful and to see all the good feedback. So always appreciate that. You are welcome for the chats, Jessica. It was awesome hanging out with you guys as well. I'll definitely incorporate the full channel mode next week. And I guess I'll see you guys next week from there. My stomach is growling. So, but anything else before we part ways here? I love you guys. And I guess that's it. Your messages resonate deeply here in New Zealand. And thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome, Nature Fellow. Thank you for letting me know. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, bless you in your endeavors, and may the highest and best to transpire. And I hope you guys are crushing it out there, or will be in the best ways. And you are welcome, Celeste. Thank you. And I will see you guys in the future. Absolutely, Dana. Okay. Thank you guys. I will see you next week or in the future.